Thank you for tuning into the live show. Welcome back to the live show. You know what time it is. It is your boy Genesis. It is currently 2:59 p.m. And of course, today is the 20th of May 2025. How are we doing? Good afternoon. How is your day going? Welcome back to the live show. Of course, a lot is going on. Of course, a lot is going on. Vladimir Putin was definitely supposed to keep calm and keep the peace. Okay. But some experts are saying that these guys started the war. There's no way he's willing to end the war. That's what some people are saying. But the 45th and now the 47th is saying that he is going to stop the war. He had a 2-hour conversation with Vladimir Putin yesterday, and Vladimir Putin confirmed it as well. So moving forward, we're going to check what's going on in that area, as well as the Qatari family and the $400 million 747 Boeing that was gifted to the Department of Defense. But of course, the news media is saying that the Qatari family is gifting the president himself, which the Qatari family said, we're not gifting Donald Trump, okay, who happens to be the president of the United States. We're gifting the United States Department of Defense. But the media isn't going to hear all that. And also, Tom Homan, the border czar, there's been an update concerning the border and the Supreme Court. A lot is going on. A lot is going on. A lot is going on. So we're going to check all of that. And as well, we're going to see what's going on in New Orleans and the escapees from the New Orleans area and the prison out there, the jailbreak. Also, in Newark, New Jersey, the Dems, which is the Democrats, that went out there to the ICE facility and they sort of kind of got physical, like the video we saw a couple of days ago. And it's most likely that some of them may be facing federal charges after physical confrontation with ICE agents. Also, Newark's airport experiences third radio outage. A lot of people are saying this is getting ridiculous. Whew. Also, the former president, the 46th president of the United States, President Joe Biden, of course, we hope he gets well soon. He was diagnosed with prostate cancer. And yeah, hopefully he gets better. Hopefully he gets better. Hopefully he gets better. Well, Tom Homan is also saying that you cannot put your hands on an ICE agent. All right? You cannot put your hands on an ICE agent. Tom Homan is standing by his words. No hands on ICE agents. But with that being said, we're going to start with this Qatari situation and the 747 Boeing. Check this out.
All right, this morning, new CNN reporting on the giant 747 President Trump wants the U.S. to accept as a gift from Qatar and then use as Air Force One. This is what the president has said on it.
So I think it's a great gesture from Qatar. I appreciate it very much. I would never be one to turn down that kind of an offer. I mean, I could be a stupid person and say, no, we don't want a free, very expensive airplane.
But it turns out there's nuance here. Sources tell CNN it was the Trump administration that made the initial approach. CNN's Alex Marquardt has the new reporting.
President Donald Trump has talked about this potential deal for a Qatari Boeing 747 to act as Air Force One, as a gesture, a gift from the Qatari royal family, which the U.S. would receive for free, he said. But sources tell my colleagues and me that it was the Trump administration that first made the outreach to Qatar after Trump came into office, that it is in fact the U.S., that made this request of Doha. The administration was told by Boeing, which is making the next generation of Air Force One planes, that the 2 planes would not arrive until 2027. Trump wanted something sooner, so the Pentagon, with the White House's backing, reached out to Qatar. Boeing had given the administration a list of possible planes that could work as Air Force One in the meantime, and Qatar had one of those planes. The president's Middle East envoy, Steve Witkoff, he also helped facilitate these early meetings. The Pentagon then offered to buy the plane, and Qatar offered to sell it. Now, we're told, the lawyers are still hashing out the details, but the White House is still claiming that this is going to be a donation from Qatar, or as Trump wrote on Truth Social recently, a gift free of charge. Trump had said that a Qatari official had told him, if I can help you, let me do that. Now, publicly, Qatar has not refuted Trump, and in his visit to Doha last week, everything went smoothly. But the real story is certainly more nuanced and different from how Trump and his aides have been telling it. Even if this deal is signed, current and former officials have told CNN that it could take 2 years and hundreds of millions of dollars, several times the value of the plane, to strip it down and rebuild it with technical and security standards fit for a U.S. presidential aircraft.
Remember that plane from Qatar that the Trump administration said was a gift? Sources tell CNN that it actually was the Trump administration which approached the country about a new...
The question here is, what sources? Sources say that the Trump administration approached the Qatari family. Where is your source? Who told you? Sources say. Remember when they say experts say we're going into recession? What experts? What sources?
Boeing 747 that could be used as Air Force One. So those sources say immediately after President Trump took office in January, the Pentagon contacted Boeing and was told they wouldn't be able to produce a new presidential jet for at least another 2 years. A senior White House official says that's when President Trump asked Middle East envoy Steve Witkoff to put together a list of viable planes. The group chat is back. What happened next is eventually. Are you into this?
The priorities of this administration, they came in and were like, we got to have Air Force One planes, back on the tarmac, and the ones that we had ordered in the first administration. I mean, this plane thing, honestly, is just insane.
Why are we still talking about the plane thing? I know it's my fault because I read the introduction, but it feels, I did this to us, but it feels like it's not going away. And this reporting is sort of showing the path from, hey, do you think we could get a plane faster?
Would be okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think that the reason we're talking about this is because corruption is such a hit that Republicans have made on Democrats for a really long time, whether it's Nancy Pelosi's stock trades or also the defenses of Trump's taking this plane. I've talked about Qatar's general influence in a lot of the Democratic policies making spaces. I believe Ilhan Omar was paid for by Qatar at some point to take a trip to the Middle East. And so they keep trotting out these arguments.
But it's also the single most kind of ineffective hit against Trump.
Yes.
Like, I've just never seen that land a political blow.
Because people believe that everyone is corrupt in D.C., and if everyone's corrupt, at least with Trump, it's out in the open. It's nakedly available for you to see. I don't really buy this argument, but I think a lot of voters do feel that because Washington is such a swamp, they've bought that argument from Trump. Why would they hit him now?
Conservatives, I think, are actually uncomfortable with this. I mean, he's been taking a lot of hit from conservatives over this because it is Qatar, because Qatar has a relationship, for example, with Hamas. It has been involved, it has a close relationship with Iran. The actual sort of enemies of the United States, this small emirate has a relationship with them. And so to take a plane from them, it does have this question, what are you going to get in return? And
Michael,
nobody gets anything for nothing.
Because Lulu's right, you have heard some prominent voices on the right say, what are you doing? Why are you doing it? This feels like an unforced error. I mean, what do you think of how the administration is trying to defend it?
I mean, they're not really trying to defend it other than to say, hey, look, this is just a gift. I think the gift story.
It would be dumb not to take a free plane.
Why wouldn't you take it? I mean,
Yeah.
The gift storyline seems to be a classic of the Trump pattern, which is tell a good story, try to make it entertaining. Hey, they're just giving me this gift here. I think it's not going away for all the reasons everybody's mentioned here. It bothers kind of everybody across the political spectrum. It just reeks of favor trading. And even if there's no favor that was offered from Qatar with this plane, it's going to come. And I think people have an intuitive understanding that this doesn't feel right.
Yeah.
I do think
like
that's a problem.
It's not a stack of cash, but it's like a flying.
This is true for people in D.C. Like, I am personally bothered by this, but at the same time, I don't think it's true that regular people watching this news story are just upset about this kind of corruption, because you hear stories about corruption in D.C. all the time. They kind of all blur together.
Yeah.
It's hard to
this sticks in the mind. This sticks in the mind. This is a plane.
I think one of the other problems with this is about the United States and the way that it's seen in the world. And so when you have the plane of the American president being sort of like a branded gift, as if you're a soccer team, with the Qatar emblazoned over your jersey. I mean, there is something about that we're supposed to be the most powerful country in the world, and yet we're getting a plane from a tiny emirate. I mean, this is slightly problematic.
Like, Boeing can't build the plane. It's absurd.
Is this just pressure on Boeing, or although that was my theory at first, and now it seems like no, they really just want the plane.
No, and I think Trump is obsessed with the plane. I mean, I think it's like the actual plane. He loved it. He loved the president. I would say this to the point about sort of Qatar being aligned with America's enemies. If I were a journalist on this new Air Force One, I'd watch what I'd say. Like what sort of things are going on?
Although it's supposed to be a defense to defense department thing,
I guess,
people have talked about
me.
the cost of trying to fit it to be secure, and that cost in of itself is something that would make things problematic.
Can I just say one more thing about the plane, which is they just in the Times showed the sort of brochure, because they've been trying to sell it for a while. It's really nice. I just want to say that. It's a really nice plane.
So you want to get on Air Force One?
I just want to say, I get it. It's a nice
Lulu
plane.
Skyron should just say shout out to luxury.
Can I get your take on something else? CNN has new reporting tonight from my colleagues that it was actually the White House and the administration that reached out to the Qataris about securing that new plane that the president plans to use as Air Force One. Initially, we had been told that Qatar offered it to the White House as they needed a new plane because Boeing was taking too long to build the new Air Force Ones. Are you comfortable with the president flying on a plane that is not made in the United States?
Well, the 747 was made in the United States, and then it was set up to their criteria.
But it's been in,
but it's been elsewhere. And look, there are security issues that are going to have to be addressed. But there's a transition period here between the 747 that the president's using right now, the Air Force One, which you were on, which is old, as you could tell, and the brand new ones that are coming on board that aren't ready yet. But during this transition period, there may very well be a way to utilize this aircraft that actually helps us make that transition, because there's tools and parts that can be used not only in this one, but in the brand new ones as well.
But even apart from physically being able to use it and retrofit it, are you comfortable with the president flying on a plane that was gifted to him by Qatar?
If the question is, can he legally accept it?
No, I'm just, ethically and optically, are you comfortable with that?
If we can show the American people that there was a method and a reason why it is beneficial in terms of this transition, I think that'll help a lot. And I think there may very well be an argument made that as we transition from the old 747s, which are still in service, to the new 747s, there's a number of items that have to be included in each of the 747s. If we can build some of that and then transition it out of one 747 and then into the new one, there may very well be some benefits to that, while the old 747s are still flying. So we've had a chance to talk to some of the folks in the Air Force, and the Air Force actually does have a plan to be able to work through this. Now, I'm not going to get into it because a lot of it's still classified, but there is a logic that a lot of people aren't talking about yet, and I probably shouldn't be breaking that story.
Interesting that you did talk to the Air Force, though. When you are ready to break it, let us know. Senator Mike Rounds, thank you for your time, as always.
Appreciate it.
Great to have you.
All right, you talked about the big, beautiful bill. Perfect segue. This morning, President Trump will head to Capitol Hill to attend a House Republican conference meeting and urge them to unite and to pass this one big, beautiful bill.
So Peter Ducey's at the White House with more. Peter.
And something you don't usually see behind us on the North Lawn, the Beast is getting ready to take President Trump to do something that he rarely does. He's going to go to Capitol Hill with the full presidential package, the whole motorcade, the small army of Secret Service, a dozen or so aides, and he is going to lean on Republican holdouts to get them to yeses on this big, beautiful bill.
If we don't get it, that means the Democrats will have stopped us, and that means people will get a 68% tax increase, the largest in history. And if we do get it, we're going to have the largest tax decrease in history. And all my life, I've watched politicians screaming, "We will cut your taxes." This is the only group where they say, "We're going to raise your taxes," and they think they're going to win. There's something wrong with them.
Blue state Republicans want higher caps on state and local tax, or SALT, deductions. Speaker Johnson is saying we are continuing to work on it. It is not a final resolution yet, but I think we're getting very close. The White House is warning, meantime, that failure to pass the big, beautiful bill will be seen as a betrayal by the...
Everybody's asking about the 747 Boeing from the Qatari family, which, well, the only reason they're saying all of this is because it costs, what, $400 million? But think about it. The Statue of Liberty was a gift. Most people don't even know that the Statue of Liberty in New York was a gift from France. Okay, so what? Give it back to France? Are we going to give back the Statue of Liberty to France? No, it's there in New York. That's like what? That's why people travel to New York, to see the Statue of Liberty. But it was a gift from France. Now, because it's Trump and the Qatari family is giving him, well, not him, the Department of Defense, $400 million worth of 747 Boeing, which is replacing that to be the Air Force One, because the Air Force One right now, the current Air Force One is 42 years old. Well, does it still function? Absolutely. But a 42 years old plane, and this happens to be the president of the United States flying in a 42 years old plane, I don't know.
The voting public.
The America First policies in this bill are the reason why Republicans currently have the majority in Congress right now. And that's why it's essential that every Republican in the House and the Senate unites behind President Trump and passes this popular and essential legislative package.
President Trump seems to just want to get it over with today. He is going to leave ahead of a 9 a.m. closed-door meeting on Capitol Hill as the clock ticks towards this deadline that Republicans set for themselves to get the big, beautiful bill passed by Monday. That only gives them 6 more days. Back to you.
Hey, so Peter, let's say they get this done Memorial Day or a day or two after. The Senate takes it up right away, correct? And then their goal is July 4th?
Yes. And so this is a big part of the reason why President Trump signed so many executive orders when he first came into office, because it takes, even with Republicans in the Senate and Republicans in the House, it is taking forever to get anything done legislatively. And so, yes, Memorial Day would be the goal for that House if they can get there after President Trump's visit today. And then 4th of July-ish for the Senate, and then President Trump can sign it again if they get there. They've got enough holdouts that it might be a real problem. And this is a big part of the reason why they pulled Elise Stefanik's nomination to be the UN ambassador down, because they are so slim with their majority. They need each vote, including hers.
That's why they're smushing this all together, trying to use reconciliation so they don't have to worry about that 60-vote filibuster in the Senate, right?
Correct, yes.
Right.
Thanks, Peter.
Great job.
Well, I think, of course, this process is frustrating, but they're getting all of the president's promises in one bill. So we knew that it was going to be a little complicated because you got the border, you got taxes, you got everything.
Tax on overtime.
Exactly. So a lot of things are in here. But there's one thing that's just grinding my gears. And look, it would benefit me because I have to pay New York taxes. But I don't understand how the GOP conference, you have representatives from New York that want this SALT deduction. It's not fair to the other states.
But you know what their argument is?
Their argument is that they
pay
get
more to the federal
exactly.
government. And do you know that the threshold is 400,000, or you're not going to get anything off unless it's 400,000. They want to give a 40,000. They want to. The policy would lift the 10,000 cap with zero to 30,000, subjected to higher deduction for new income restrictions on taxpayers who make 400,000. So if you make 400,000 or less, you can write it off. If you don't, you're not. So that is going to allow. That was a big cut there was a pay for in 2017. Now that's virtually gone. So what are you going to do? It's going to add to the spending. So that's what Chip Roy and others are saying, that adds to the spending. Why are we leaving so much of the new Green Deal in? So here's where the rubber hits the road. And I'm not rationalizing it, but they say in New York, you got the Wind Project. So the Wind Project is supposed to be 100,000 jobs and supposed to power for 500,000 people. Let's get rid of it because it's the new Green Deal. But a lot of Republicans in New York say, wait a second, we need that for jobs. And you have people lobbying on that.
If you're an older person, no tax on Social Security. If you work in Vegas, if you work in a restaurant, no tax on overtime or on tips. It's advantageous for a lot of Americans.
Real quickly, as I was talking about that, I'm against the SALT deduction. One of the counter arguments that is also being made, to your point, Brian, is that they say that those districts are competitive for Republicans. And this is one thing that they could get that could keep that a Republican seat. So I do see both sides on it.
But the Medicaid is the thing. It's reform, not reduce. Reform to what its original mandate was for the children and the disabled. Obama expanded to the point where it's unaffordable and the federal government's on the hook for 95% of it.
It's crazy.
That's what blew up the budget.
And on the left side of your screen, there he is, just entering the Capitol now. Let's see if he makes any remarks.
Well, it's not a question of holdouts. We have a tremendously unified party. I don't think we've ever had a party like this. There are some people that want a couple of things that maybe I don't like or that they're not going to get. But I think we're going to have tremendous, not luck, we have tremendous talent. This man has done an incredible job as Speaker. You know, we had a majority of 1. We were 1 heart attack away from losing the House, okay? Now we have 7. That's a big, because we won some elections, as you probably noticed, and we're gonna win a lot of elections. We have an economy that's roaring. We took out 5.1 billion, if you take a look, 5.1 trillion with a T, not a B. 5.1 trillion out of the Middle East. They're investing more than that. It's gonna be ultimately more than that, but 180 wide-body Boeing aircraft. They're spending money at levels that nobody's ever seen. Usually a president goes for a trip and he loses money. In other words, he gives money. We went for a trip and we took out $5.1 trillion. Nobody has ever seen anything like it. And that's just the beginning. So I think we're a very unified party. The Senate's doing great. John Thune is doing fantastically. He's a great guy. And we're going to have a bill, the one big beautiful bill. I think it's going to be, it's the biggest bill ever passed, and we got to get it done. Tremendous tax cuts for people, tremendous incentives, tremendous regulation cuts, all these regulations that are so horrible. And now you find out what happened, because Biden, look, it's a very sad thing what happened, but we're going to start looking into this whole thing with who signed this legislation. Who signed legislation opening our border? I don't think he knew. I said there's nobody that can want an open border, nobody. And now I find out that it wasn't him. He auto-penned it. Who was operating the auto-pen? This is a very serious thing. We had a president that didn't sign anything. He auto-penned almost everything. He opened the borders of the United States of America. And I kept saying, who would do such a thing? Allowing criminals to pour in from all over the world, not just South America, all over the world. They came in from Africa, they came in from Asia, they came from the Congo. The prisons in the Congo in Africa, these are rough people. The prisons from the Congo are empty. You know where they are? They're in this country. Who would sign this? Nobody would sign it. No sane person would sign it. You know who signed it? Radical left lunatics that were running our country, and the auto-pen signed it. And they didn't want him, and they were disappointed in getting him because they wanted Bernie Sanders. And then after about 2 weeks, they said, wait a minute, this is a gift. He'll do anything. We're going to use the auto-pen. And they used the auto-pen and everything. He didn't approve this stuff because when Joe Biden was with it, he would never have approved it. You take a look. He would have never approved open borders. Go ahead, another one.
Are Republicans still grandstanding in your view?
Oh, yeah, sure. You have a couple that will grandstand, but I think even the grandstanders should. Look, the alternative is a 68% tax increase. And you can blame the Democrats for that and 1 or 2 grandstanders. We only have 1 or 2, but we have tremendous support. But you'll have a 68% tax increase, or you'll get a massive tax decrease. You'll get a tax cut, the likes of which we've never had before. This is bigger than any Ronald Reagan tax cut. It's even bigger than the tax cut that I gave, because as you know, that's being extended and increased. So this is the biggest tax cut in the history of our country, or you'll get a 68% tax increase. And if that happens, I mean, what Republican could vote for that to happen? Because they wouldn't be a Republican much longer. They would be knocked out so fast. But we're going up to details. This is I'm a cheerleader for this party, and I'm a cheerleader for the country. Much more importantly for the country. But I'm a cheerleader for the party, and we're going to go up, and I think we're going to have a very good discussion. There are one or two points that some people feel strongly about, but maybe not so strong.
On one of those points, do you consider some of the proposals on the table in co-pay provider tax as a benefit cut? How are you viewing those?
No, we are looking at one thing. We're not doing any cutting of anything meaningful. The only thing we're cutting is waste, fraud, and abuse. With Medicaid, waste, fraud, and abuse. There's tremendous waste, fraud, and abuse. There's incompetent things put in. We have illegal aliens that are multiple killers with multiple murder records getting Medicaid. I don't think anybody minds if we cut that. The Democrats, on the other hand, are going to destroy it because they're going to leave these people on. We're cutting three things: waste, fraud, and abuse. We're not changing Medicaid, and we're not changing Medicare, and we're not changing Social Security. And if I wanted to do those things, I would have done it during my 4 years that we were.
Mr. President, what's your message to your fellow New Yorker Republicans who are hung up on the SALT issue?
Well, SALT is a very interesting thing because the governors of New York and Illinois, you know, the big JB who's going nowhere. Probably right now he could be the worst governor in the country. But Illinois and Gavin Newsom, those are the people that want this. And they're Democrat states. They're all Democrat states. You know, Ronald Reagan tried very hard to get this passed, was unable to do it the way we have it, where basically everybody's treated equally. He tried it so hard, and he never got it done. He was always disappointed. He never got it done. We got it done. Now people want to change it. So we're going to be talking about that. But the biggest beneficiary, if we do that, are governors from New York, Illinois, and California. And those governors are the ones that blew it because they weren't able to get it. So I think we're going to be explaining that. These are all very blue states that I don't really believe. If we had honest elections, I don't actually believe. I think I would have won California. I would have won New York. I even think I would have won Illinois. I think we have to, you know, we're going to start this after. I was talking to Mike, and again, I'm his biggest fan. I love this guy. He's the only guy who could have walked in with a one. Think of it. You can't be a guy like me and have a one majority. You have to be a guy like him, a nice person. He's very religious. He prays. He's a man of God. And so am I, but he's really to a new level, I will tell you. He is a great guy. They love him in Louisiana, and they love him that's the only kind of guy. Somebody said, oh, well, we want somebody that, if you put a certain personality in there, you would have never, look at what he got passed, what he's gotten passed. And just so you understand, he's getting this passed too. And I don't think there's anybody I could give you guys that is so tough you guys would run if you ever looked at him. If you ever saw some of these guys, you would not ask him questions you'd be afraid to. This guy did something that I don't think there's anybody that's more well-suited to be Speaker of the House, especially under a case like this. Remember, we had a majority of 1 for 6 months, and that was a very frightening thing because the Democrats have really hurt our country. And we are going to go into very much, so remember what I said, the auto pay. This government was illegally run for 4 years. Thank you very much, everybody.
Mr. President, should the DOJ be charging a member of Congress?
Weren't sure we would get comments, but we got quite a bit right there. It's not a question of holdouts, says the president. There are some, however, within the Republican caucus that want bigger cuts in Medicaid. That seems to be a sticking point. Overall, it is a big bill, and we'll see how beautiful it is in the end. More than 1,100 pages. Your main provisions here are the extension of the tax cuts for individuals and businesses going back to 2017. There's other requirements in here for parents and older Americans, for work requirements for food assistance. There's new work requirements for Medicaid. There's no money for Planned Parenthood, something Republicans wanted. There's this new provision for $1,000 savings accounts for what's called MAGA Kids, which stands for Money Accounts for Growth and Advancements. There's funding for a mass deportation operation, which is a big deal, and I don't think a lot of people have really dived into this enough just yet. They want to hire 10,000 new ICE agents. They want to finish the border wall. All that money is appropriated in the bill that they're trying to negotiate and pass right now.
And they want a lot of spending cuts, and that is why we are here at this moment, because Speaker Johnson can only lose 3 Republicans, and right now he does not have the votes. There are 3 holdouts, and the president is hoping to change their minds this morning. He's headed over to a closed-door conference right now. Just some color from inside the room as those Republicans are waiting for his arrival. Some are texting me right now from inside that room saying that there was a lot of tension ahead of this, but there is high energy in this room, a lot of electricity, and another just texted me, nothing generates buzz like Trump in the Capitol. So they're looking forward to hearing what he has to say. Just pointing out there, Bill, he was holding on to a folder, which is very unlike President Trump, so perhaps he is there to get into the weeds of what the issues are and perhaps negotiates with these holdouts. So let's go live now to Chad Program. He is just standing outside the room where the president will enter any moment now. Chad, what's the latest down there?
Good morning, Aisha and Bill. Will you talk about generating a buzz here? What he needs to generate are votes. I talked to Thomas Massie, the Republican from Kentucky, who said he's an absolute no. I talked a few minutes ago to Ralph Norman. He's a Republican from South Carolina who eventually voted present to get that measure out of the Budget Committee on Sunday night. He says, I have to go back and read through the bill. I have to see potential changes that Mike Johnson is going to drop into this probably in the dead of night sometime in the next 24 hours. He said that takes some time to process. So this is far from a done deal. This is probably the highest stakes poker that President Trump has played on domestic policy during his second term because he has to get this bill through. He talks about the art of the deal. He needs to get the votes. And as I always say, it's about the math. If they were to put this bill on the floor right now, it would not pass. Now, keep in mind, we might get a few comments here from the president as he walks by being escorted by Bill McFarland, the Sergeant at Arms. Let's listen for a second.
We have a very, very united party. This man has done a fantastic job, and so have you, Lisa. But this man has done a fantastic job. He's a real unifier. I don't think anybody else could have done it. We had, I just said to your cohorts downstairs, we had a majority of 1 for a period of 5 months. And he kept it together, and we actually passed things. And nobody else could have done it. He's done a fantastic job as Speaker. We have a very, very unified party. Remember, we had 1, and now we have 7. We won elections. We won elections. I'm going to win a lot of elections. The economy is good. I just had my highest poll numbers ever. And we had a big trip to the Middle East. We took in $5.1 trillion. We brought it back to our country. 180 Boeing aircraft are being built now because of that trip and many other things. That's the least of it. The economy is doing great. The stock market's higher now than when I came to office, and we've taken in hundreds of billions of dollars in tariff money, and we've had no inflation. You know, they kept saying inflation. There's no inflation. Groceries are down. Gasoline is way down. Way down. Everything is down. All energy costs are down. I'll tell you, to me, maybe the most respected thing, you saw the way they respected me. Between Qatar and Saudi Arabia and UAE, probably the richest, certainly the richest of their type nation, great places, unbelievable amounts of money. They respect our country again. They were going to go to China. China was going to take over those countries 100%. They were dealing with China because they weren't treated right by the last administration. And they have tremendous economic power. They have more money than anybody. We probably have more money, but we have other things that they are very, very cash rich, to put it mildly. And they're spending $5.1 trillion. Probably it's going to be $7 trillion by the time we stop. And, you know, somebody said every other president goes and leaves and spends money, gives other countries money. I'm the only one that goes and takes money back. You know, when you think of it, I said, that's an interesting statement. I never thought of it that way. But we have this is really just a pep talk. We have a very unified House and we have a very unified Senate. And Mike is doing a phenomenal job as Speaker. He's going to be there a long time. And we have a man in the Senate, our leader, Thune. Mr. Thune is doing a great job. I've gotten to like him a lot, and he's doing a fantastic job. Between the two guys, very different personalities, actually, in certain ways, but they are doing a fantastic job. I don't think the Republican Party has ever been so unified. It's become a much bigger party. You know, we're winning the labor vote. We're winning. We won the Teamsters. We won votes that no one. Look how well we did with the automakers. And by the way, the president of the automakers is now my biggest fan. He said he did tariffs. Do you know how many auto plants are being built now in this country because of the tariffs? 3 just announced yesterday that they're building. There's a revolution going on, a positive one, in our country, and I love it, and we're doing really well. And we'll
time for the negotiations to stop, Mr. President. Do you want the negotiations to be over now?
Which negotiation?
Over this bill.
Oh yeah, well it's going to be. We're going to be putting it in soon, and I think we're going to have great support.
Are you going to
we're going to make a couple of tweaks. I mean, we don't want to benefit Democrat governors, although I would do that if it made it better, but they don't know what they're doing.
So you want
we don't want to do any damage to a state. We want to help all the states, but we have governors that are from the Democrat Party. Let's say New York, Illinois, big ones, and let's say Gavin Newsom, who's done a horrible job in California. You know, we want to benefit we want to benefit Republicans because they are the ones that are going to make America great again. The Democrats are destroying our country, and you see that with the past administration, with an open borders policy that allowed 21 million people into our country, and many of those people are stone cold murderers, killers, and trouble. Yeah.
What are you planning to tell the fiscal hawks who want to delay this? What are you planning to tell the fiscal hawks who want to delay this?
I'm a fiscal hawk.
They don't think this is enough spending.
I'm a bigger fiscal hawk. There's nobody like me as a fiscal hawk.
Thomas Massie said that has more deficit than Biden did, and this bill kind of...
Because we have to fix the country.
Do you think that Thomas Massie is correct in saying that this is adding Biden level
No, I don't think Thomas Massie understands government. I think he's a grandstander, frankly. He'll probably vote. We don't even talk to him much. I think he should be voted out of office. And I just don't think he understands government. If you ask him a couple of questions, he never gives you an answer. He just says, I'm a no. He thinks he's going to get publicity. And you have that. You have that. They've got some too. Go ahead.
Mr. President, on Medicaid, do you want work requirements phased in next year? Do you think
Here's
that's
what I want
possible?
on Medicaid. We're not touching anything. All I want is one thing. 3 words. We don't want any waste, fraud, or abuse. Very simple. Waste, fraud, abuse. Other than that, we're leaving it. Medicare, we're leaving it. All we're after, and this is for the good of it, is a lot of waste, fraud, and abuse. That's all we're doing. We're not touching it. The Democrats are going to destroy it. Thank you very much.
Mr. President, do you think you'll be able to convince Chip Roy and Ralph Norman to vote for this bill?
What's your message to them?
We're not getting Medicaid.
There are conservatives in this room who want to go further.
Waste, fraud, and abuse. That's all the cuts we do.
There you have it. The 45th, now the 47th is saying is only concerned about waste, fraud, and abuse. All right. The youngest press secretary, Caroline Leavitt, had a press conference today. Here we go. Everybody double tap your screen and subscribe to the channel.
Good afternoon, everyone. It is such a pleasure to see so many beautiful faces in this room and so many future leaders. Hi, Eloise. You look so cute back there. I'm so excited to host this briefing today in honor of National Bring Your Kids to Work Day, and it's great to see so many future leaders here. Welcome to the James S. Brady Briefing Room. My name is Caroline Leavitt, and I am the White House Press Secretary for President Donald J. Trump. He is the 45th and now the 47th President of the United States. My job at the White House is to communicate the President's message to the American people and to answer questions from journalists who work in this building every day, many of whom are your moms and your dads. Now, they ask me some pretty good questions, but I'm sure you will all have excellent questions to ask me yourselves. So before we open it up to questions today, I will give you a very short update on what the President is working on today. Earlier this morning, President Trump traveled to Capitol Hill to meet with members of the House of Representatives to talk about the one big, beautiful bill that we are trying to pass through Congress. The President is now back at the White House where he is taking meetings, and later this afternoon he will be making an announcement from the Oval Office with our Secretary of Defense. He's in charge of our military, Pete Hegseth. So I want to thank all of you for coming today. It's great to have you here at the People's House, and you have some very special parents who perform a very special job. And we are here to make America great again, and we live in the best country in the history of the world, and we are all very blessed to be here. So with that, thank you. I am happy to take some of your questions. And why don't you start us off, beautiful little girl? Go ahead.
What's your question for Mr. Trump?
She's thinking very hard about it.
You can ask it. You can ask it. She wants to know if Donald Trump likes to give hugs.
Oh, does he like to give hugs? You know, I think he does. I have seen him give many hugs to children and his family and our beautiful First Lady. So yes, I do think he likes to give hugs. You're welcome. Emily, would you like to ask a question?
Yes. What is the funnest part about your job and the hardest part about your job?
Wow. Well, that is definitely a very good question. I think the most fun part about my job is doing things like this with all of you in the briefing room and answering so many great questions. I think the hardest part of my job is also doing things like this in the briefing room and answering all of these questions. And reading the news is a big part of my job every day. I wake up and read the newspaper and watch the news and listen to all of the things that your parents are reporting on in the news. And that's a big part of my job every day. Frankie, go ahead. What is President Trump's favorite food? Well, President Trump loves a lot of different foods, but I think his favorite is probably steak. I've had steak with him on many occasions, and he likes to eat a big, beautiful steak. Do you like steak, Frankie? Yes? Okay. Jack, nice to see you. I like your hat. You're welcome. Would you like to ask a question?
What's the state of the border?
What's the state of the border? I can assure you the border is the most secure it has ever been in the history of our country. And I think your dad works for the Homeland Security Council, so that's a very apropos question, and your dad's doing a great job securing the border. Hazel Jane, what a beautiful name. Would you like to ask a question? Okay.
Actually, can you come back to me?
Sure, I can come back to you. I'd be happy to. Bobby Lynn?
How many people has he fired?
How many people has he fired? Thus far, actually, we have not had anyone fired with the exception of one individual who did leave their job. But we have a great team here so far. So good. Thank you for the question. Yes, little man. Is that your mommy? Your mommy is a great journalist. What's your question?
What's Donald Trump's favorite ice cream? He wants to know.
Ooh. I have seen the president eat ice cream sundaes before with chocolate sauce and some toppings too. Raise your hand if you like ice cream sundaes. It's a very popular policy position to have. Yes, very good. Dario, would you like to go?
What is the president? If the president had a superpower, what would it be?
Wow. If if the president could have a superpower, what would it be? That is a very good question. I think if he had a superpower, it would be to just snap his fingers and solve all of our country's problems just like that, because he likes to get things done very quickly, but sometimes it takes a little bit longer. Like today, he had to go to Capitol Hill to convince people to vote for his one big beautiful bill. I bet if he had a superpower, he would snap his fingers and get it passed immediately, but life doesn't work that way, unfortunately. Go ahead, buddy.
What is Donald Trump's favorite soccer player?
Favorite soccer player? You know, I don't know the answer to that. It's a very good question. I will check in with the president and get back to you. How's that sound? But I know he likes soccer and he likes all sports. Go ahead.
Does Trump leave the country like each week?
Does he leave the country each week? No, he doesn't. We left the country last week and we went on a long trip to the Middle East, very far away, but we have some plans to leave the country later this year, but most weeks he's right here at the White House working very hard. Nora, go ahead.
Which is Donald Trump's favorite president besides himself?
It's a good question, because it would be probably himself. No, I think that perhaps he would say George Washington. I know he speaks very highly of George Washington, who was, of course, the first president of our great country, and he has his big, beautiful portrait hanging in the Oval Office above the fireplace. Good question. Go ahead. You look very professional and beautiful.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
What's it like? I have a question for you. What is it like balancing a baby and your job as the press secretary as your age?
Sure. It's a very good question, and my baby is here with my mother. As you can see, he does not know what's going on. But it is a challenge every day, but it's also a blessing to have this opportunity and to be a mom. So you have to learn to prioritize your time and lean on your support system, which is my mother and my husband and my family and friends. And you can do it. You just have to work very hard. Yes.
Hi, my name is Marceli Victoria. My mom is Sariana Barris.
Oh, nice to meet you.
My question is, as press secretary, as the youngest press secretary, what advice would you give to young girls like me who want to achieve their dreams?
It's a great question, and you're so beautiful. My best advice would be to work as hard as you possibly can and just pursue every opportunity that opens up and is given to you, and just work as hard as you can.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Behind you. Yeah.
What is Donald Trump going to do about climate change?
What is Donald Trump going to do about climate change? Well, that is a very good question. The president cares very much about our environment. He says all the time he wants to have the cleanest air, the cleanest water, the cleanest environment for the world. He also cares very much about our energy independence and ensuring that we can keep the lights on in our homes at a very cheap rate. So we want to make energy here in the United States because we do it cleaner and better than everyone. So I think that's how the president would answer that question. You're welcome. Go ahead.
What is your favorite country that you've been to before?
What is my favorite country I've been to before? Oh, wow. That's a very good question. Well, I've been to many countries. I lived in Italy for a few months to study, but I very much enjoyed our trip last week to the Middle East, where the president went to Qatar, Saudi Arabia, and the United Arab Emirates, and they were 3 beautiful countries. We'll take a couple more questions to the back of that beautiful high hand. Go ahead.
What pets did Donald Trump have when he grew up and also right now?
What was that, buddy?
What pets did Donald Trump have when he grew up and also right now?
Well, he doesn't have any pets right now. I don't know if he had any pets when he was growing up. I'll have to check with him and ask, but there's no pets at the White House right now, except for our great canine Secret Service dog friends that are here to protect us. Hazel Jane, did you remember your question?
Yeah.
Okay, let's hear it.
What's the president's religion?
What's the president's religion? The president is a Christian and he believes in Jesus. Yes? In the back?
What did the president do today?
What did the president do today? The president was very busy today. He went to Capitol Hill earlier today, and then he's here back at the White House, and he's doing meetings, and then he's going to do a big announcement at 3 o'clock where all of your moms and dads will be able to ask him questions directly. Go ahead, buddy. What was that, buddy? How much candy does he eat a day? A good amount. A good amount of candy, yes. He likes pink Starburst and Tootsie Rolls. Yes, buddy, go ahead. We'll take 2 more.
What's the president's favorite order at McDonald's?
President's favorite order at McDonald's. He loves McDonald's hamburgers and French fries. Who doesn't? They're good. In the back. Go ahead, bud.
What's your least favorite news outlet?
My least favorite what?
News outlet.
I can tell you're a staff kid, not a journalist kid. Did someone say ABC? Honestly, it depends on the day. Go ahead, honey.
What is President Trump's favorite room in the White House?
Favorite room in the White House? I think his favorite room in the White House is definitely the Oval Office because it's so beautiful and he has decked it out in gold. It's now MAGA gold in there. Yes, go ahead, one more.
What's his favorite child?
That is a very controversial question, and I am not going to answer it. I know he loves all of his children very much, and they're all great kids. Some of them were here yesterday. We'll do one more to the little girl in the back behind you. Yes.
Who's your favorite president?
Who's my favorite president?
Oh.
Well, that's
Better
a good
be Donald
question
Trump.
to answer. Donald Trump. Thank you guys so very much. It's good to see you.
Thank you for tuning in to the live show. You know what time it is. Everybody, God bless you. Double tap your screen to give this video a like and subscribe to the channel. So I see some people in the comment section saying that some countries are better than the United States. Some countries are greater than the United States. Well, let me enlighten you. All right. The United States has just 4% of the world's population. All right. 4% of the world's population. But 26 of the world's GDP. All right. Gross domestic product. Okay. 26% of the world's GDP and 31% of the world's household wealth. Think about it. The United States has 4% of the world's population, but then 26% of the world's GDP and 31% of the world's household wealth. Also, 57% of all venture capital investment. Some people would say, what is venture capital? Well, when you see companies going to the New York Stock Exchange, going public, that's what venture capital means raising capital to take a business to the next level. And the United States has 57% of all of that. 57% of the world's venture capital investment. Also, the United States has 73% of the 100 most valuable companies. Apple, Google, Tesla, Amazon, Microsoft, McDonald's, Starbucks, Walmart, all of these, Nvidia, all of these companies, Uber, all of these companies are American companies. 73% of the 100 most valuable companies are American companies. So tell me again, what nation is the greatest nation on earth? Tom Holman, ladies and gentlemen.
So today on Capitol Hill, House lawmakers are set to examine threats to ICE operations. It comes as a Democratic congresswoman faces federal charges. She's accused of assaulting a police officer during the storming of that New Jersey ICE facility earlier this month. Border czar Tom Homan joins us right now. So, Tom, I said initially this was the right call. I'm glad they conducted the investigation. They didn't overcharge, but they didn't undercharge as well. What's your reaction?
Well, I said from day one, you cross that line, we're going to ask for prosecution. You cannot support ICE. You know, shame on you. You can push back against President Trump's immigration agenda. Whatever. You can protest. But you cannot cross that line. You can't knowingly impede a law enforcement officer, ICE officer. It's a crime. You can't knowingly conceal and harbor an illegal alien from ICE. You cannot, commit criminal trespass at our facilities and endanger our employees. And you certainly can't put hands on an ICE agent. So, she's going to have to pay the consequences for doing what she did. She broke the law, and we're going to hold her accountable.
Tom, doesn't this send a message, though, to also the activists as well? If she wanted to conduct oversight, she could have scheduled an appointment, arrived there, and they would have gladly showed her the facility, just like they did for our own Rachel Campos Duffy. But she showed up with a mob, and they assaulted the cops.
Exactly. This is politics. This is politics over public safety, politics over common sense. I mean, that facility is one of the finest facilities in this nation. And when ICE will give a review to any congressperson or any news station wants to come in a facility, come on and look. We have the highest detention standards in the industry. That facility puts to shame any other facility in the state of New Jersey, any state or local facility. This facility puts it in shame because of the detention standards are so high. Anybody that looks at any of our facilities will say, well, that was a waste of time because these detention facilities are actually really well built, really well maintained. Detention standards are highest in the industry. So come on and look at it. But you can't break into the facility. You can't force your way into the facility. And again, you can't put hands on an ICE employee. We're not going to tolerate it.
Tom, let's talk about these self-deportation flights. I think the first one arrived yesterday. You guys are going to pay folks $1,000 if they choose to self-deport. I was actually skeptical if this was going to work, but it looks like folks are already taking these flights. How did you convince them to self-deport?
Because if they don't, they're going to face serious consequences. You know, what we started doing, we're enforcing two laws that we haven't enforced in a long time. Number one, failing to register. If you don't fail to register after 90 days of being here, we're going to prosecute you criminally. Then we're going to deport you. And if you hinder your arrest, if you don't open the door, if you don't answer our questions, if you don't assist in travel documents to your home nation after being ordered deported by the immigration judge, then we're going to prosecute you for that, which is 8 U.S.C. 1253. So we'll prosecute you, we'll put you in prison. When you get out, we'll deport you. We're not playing games. There are going to be consequences. Leave on your own. If you leave on your own and work with us, you can get your affairs in order. It makes sense for them and their families. And leave yourself an opportunity to come back to this country as a visitor or as a student, or if you have a U.S. citizen child, they can petition for you as a parent of a U.S. citizen. There are other avenues to come to this country the right way. But if we have to formally deport you, we got to go find you, and we got to put you on a plane and formally deport you. There are consequences. There are bars from 5 years to 20 years. You can't come back. Some of the bars are forever. So leave on your own and give yourself some opportunity in the future to be part of the greatest country on earth.
Tom, I only got about 30 seconds. I just got to get your reaction to the former VP candidate, Tim Walz, going after ICE, saying all of these words, accusing them essentially of being Nazis as well. What's your reaction? You used to run ICE.
It's disgusting. Every man and woman in ICE straps a gun to their hip every day and wear a Kevlar vest to arrest the worst of the worst. Look at the numbers. ICE has almost arrested about 82,000 people in the United States, taking them off the streets, including his state. We've taken very dangerous people off the streets of his state, made his state safer. While he's sleeping at 3 o'clock this morning, there's ICE agents out there arresting public safety threats and national security threats in his state. He ought to be thanking ICE and not vilifying them.
Great, Tom Homan. Thanks, brother.
A
A Democrat New Jersey congresswoman now facing federal charges for allegedly misconduct for alleged misconduct toward law enforcement during the chaotic protest outside of that ICE facility earlier this month.
I mean, you see it in the video right there. Alexis McAdams is live in Newark. She was there initially when all of this broke out. Alexis, what can you tell us?
Hey, good morning. Yeah, we were out there the day that the Newark mayor got arrested. Things got pretty chaotic, and it wasn't as chaotic, though, according to investigators, you guys, as a few minutes before that arrest happened, after they say Representative LaMonica McIver was pushing and shoving ICE agents. Now the congresswoman is looking at federal charges here, serious felony charges that we're told, after all this happened. Watch. Okay, so that's LaMonica McIver right there. You can see her on your screen for people watching at home saying, who is this lady? She's right there. She's shoving and elbowing an ICE agent, according to prosecutors. The video released by DHS is just one of many pieces of evidence, I'm told, that interim U.S. Attorney Alita Habba tells Fox led to several felony charges of assaulting, impeding, or interfering with law enforcement. Habba posted this on X, saying that the congresswoman violated Title 18. It all started earlier this month when 3 Democratic Congress members from New Jersey thought, hey, today looks like a good day to go to this ICE facility to do some oversight. So it was Robert Menendez Jr., LaMonica McIver, and Bonnie Watson Coleman. They showed up to this facility in Newark, said they wanted a tour. They waited, but DHS says they then just pushed their way past the gates of an ICE detention facility without permission, and it led to chaos. Newark Mayor Ross Baraka was actually arrested that day. Now his case has been dropped. They were only misdemeanor charges, so they wanted to go after the bigger case, we're told. Investigators tell me McIver blocked police from putting handcuffs on Newark Mayor Ross Baraka, so agents had to wait to arrest him for trespass outside. So that's why it happened a short time later. Despite all this video evidence, McIver said she didn't do anything wrong. She says the charges are purely political, saying in part it's meant to criminalize and deter oversight. This is what she said last week. Listen.
We're simply there to do our job, therefore oversight visit, and what you're watching in the video, and we don't have all of the body cam, and we hope that all of the body cam is released. It was very difficult to watch that happen, but absolutely, I did not body slam anyone.
And I actually talked to the Congress members out there that day, and she mentioned that Monica McIver mentioned that she felt like she was the one who was under attack by federal agents, but that's not what the body camera video shows, according to DHS. Representative Hakeem Jeffries and other leaders of the Democratic Party aren't too happy about this. We're being told that McIver's got to turn herself in at some point today, so we got an eye in the courthouse. We've got crews around Newark to see when and if she shows up, so I'll keep you posted. So
Alexis, didn't you also report that one of her big offenses was blocking the mayor from being cuffed?
Yeah. That's right. And you mentioned earlier, I was listening to you around 6 o'clock this morning, Brian, and that's when they said they had to wait until he came back outside the gate. So according to Congress members that were there, they were saying, we didn't do anything wrong. You know, why is he being arrested on public property? But they're saying that's impeding when they were inside the ICE facility. They wanted to cuff the mayor because he wasn't supposed to be there. And then they said, hey, no, don't do it.
So the mayor got exonerated. He's on his own, and it's
well, he cooperated. Yeah, he cooperated with the U.S. attorney, and so they dropped the charges. Thanks, Alexis. Ainsley, all of these people are looking for a moment, though.
You know, they really are, and a peaceful protest is fine. But what we saw there, we did see her with her arm.
She should have pushed them.
Her elbow and then her arm, and pushing through the cops, doing that to them. The same thing would happen to any one of us. It's not political. If you're pushing a cop, then you're going to get arrested, or you're going to have charges. There's going to be some sort of a punishment. These guys put on their vests and their badges, like Tom Homan said earlier. They risk their lives to keep our community safe, and you can't treat them that way. Here's Tom Homan.
From day one, you cross that line, we're going to ask for prosecution. You cannot support ICE. You know, shame on you. You can push back against President Trump's immigration agenda. Whatever, you can protest, but you cannot cross that line. You can't knowingly impede a law enforcement officer, ICE officer. It's a crime. You can't knowingly conceal and harbor an illegal alien from ICE. You cannot, commit criminal trespass at our facilities and endanger our employees. And you certainly can't put hands on an ICE agent. So, she's going to have to pay the consequences for doing what she did. She broke the law, and we're going to hold her accountable. This is politics over public safety, politics over common sense. I mean, that facility is one of the finest facilities in this nation.
And that's what they found out when they took a tour of it.
Yeah, and this has all become too performative. They're trying to fake the civil rights movement. First of all, they never were violent during the civil rights movement. They never pushed cops, and they never impeded arrests. And I think there's consequences now. Now they're going to think twice before they do this again.
I'm Steve Ducey.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley.
Thank you for tuning into the live show. Yes, here we go.
On a very busy news day, I'm Harris Faulkner here with my co-hosts Emily Campagno and Kaylee McEnany. Also joining us today, Riley Gaines is here, Outkick contributor and host of Gaines for Girls on Outkick. And John Yoo, UC Berkeley law professor, former Deputy Assistant Attorney General, and former law clerk for Justice Thomas. Welcome to our guests. Well, let's begin with Project Homecoming now. The Trump administration's charter flights to help willing immigrants, those who came here illegally, self-deport to their home countries. The Department of Homeland Security is sharing this video of that flight from Houston to Honduras and Colombia. 64 of those illegal immigrants boarded that charter jet free of charge. Officials handed out food and children's toys for each ride, and each person was given a $1,000 stipend for their cooperation. Now, remember, this was the incentive that was promised by President Trump shortly after he came into office. He's been talking about this for weeks, and now it's happening. Now, those illegal aliens will have a chance to legally return to the United States. He said, look, if you come back the legal way, you got to get in line. You won't be put first, but you can come back if you self-deport. DHS Secretary Kristi Noem posted this picture of two women sharing a hug before boarding their flight. And this man was all smiles before boarding as he headed back to his home country. Secretary Noem talked about her self-deportation program during a Senate hearing last hour.
For us to deport someone, that we have to go out and find that individual, arrest and detain them and remove them from the country, it costs upwards to $17,000 if there isn't, more delays than the normal process. That's why we're encouraging people to self-deport. If you are here illegally, we recognize that you may have been here for a period of time, but if you want to leave and have the chance to come back someday, leave on your own. We will facilitate that. We'll buy you a plane ticket. When you land, we will give you $1,000 that you can get started with and provide for your family. That cost of self-deportation is $4,500. So much, much more cheaper for the American taxpayer in how we make sure that we really are following our laws and that the people here in this country, the American citizens, are treated with the respect that they're due by coming here through the legal process and being a part of our future.
And I want to make it clear, our screen right now says migrants. They are illegal immigrants who were in this country, and they have begun to self-deport. John, what's your thought on this legally?
Harris, I totally see the symbolism of this, but I don't think using carrots rather than sticks is a way to enforce our laws when they're broken. Now, just the back of the envelope calculations, it would take 155,000 flights to fly all of the tens of millions of people that President Biden let in illegally.
But they're not all going to leave that way.
No, I expect not. If it's Newark Airport, it could be 250,000.
Oh, my goodness.
These days.
Touche.
We're talking $10 billion in payments. But the main point is our criminal laws and our laws create a deterrent. And I think that's where President Trump has been successful. We are deterring people from coming here. If you get in here illegally, we shouldn't be rewarding them. And think about if we applied this to my hometown in San Francisco. People are stealing things at rampant rates. Are we going to pay them to stop stealing? Are we going to pay people to stop committing murder? No, the point of the criminal law is to deter people from causing harm to society in the future. So I think paying people $1,000 for getting into the country illegally is going to have a perverse effect.
What do you think about that, Kaylee?
I've said before that I think there's an important symbol here, and it's broader than just, enforcing immigration law. It's President Trump's compassionate way of saying, you sign up, you do this the right way, and I will give you a second chance. And he has articulated that. We talked about it on the show on Fox Noticias, the portion where he was asked by a man, a Mexican-American who'd been here, an illegal immigrant, been here 20 years with a family. And Trump said, I don't want to do harm to this guy. do things the right way and come back. So I think that symbol is a very important one. It's a compassionate way to do things. And I think what President Trump was doing today on your program, throughout the hour, throughout the day, really, when he has stepped up to the microphone, he's driven a consistent message. And it's about the auto pen. And he's talked about who would take that pen and sign this away, sign away our border security. Who would take that pen and do that? And I was looking, President Biden's first day in office, the stuff he was signing with the auto pen or whoever was signing, whatever, was ending discriminatory bans on entry to the United States as if that was a priority, diverting border wall funding. Someone took that pen and signed those proclamations and undid American safety. President Trump today, by signing the proclamation for this homecoming project, has taken the pen and signed up for American security, saving the American taxpayer $150 billion a year in money diverted to illegal immigrants. I like it, and I like the symbolism particularly.
Yeah, and that pen was also pardoning his relatives. You know,
yes.
Biden had priorities, apparently. Yeah. Riley.
Yeah, well, I think it's humane and transparent, which I believe the transparency key is important. It's what the American people voted for. It's strategic enforcement. You have to wonder how many people have entered into this country illegally under Joe Biden or even prior to that who want to go home.
Thank you for tuning in to the live show. All right, so the OG, the 45th, now the 47th, just posted on Truth Social saying that Joe Biden was not for open borders. He never talked about open borders where criminals of all kinds, shapes, and sizes can flow into our country at will. It wasn't his idea to open the border and almost destroy our country and cost us hundreds of billions of dollars to get criminals out of our country and go through the process we are going through now. It was the people that knew he was cognitively impaired and that took over the auto pen. All right. They stole the presidency of the United States and put us in great danger. This is treason at the highest level. They did it to destroy our country. The Joe Biden that everybody knew would never allow drug dealers, gang members, and the mentally insane to come into our country, totally unchecked and unvetted. All right? All anyone has to do is look up his record. Something very severe should happen to these treasonous thugs that wanted to destroy our country. But couldn't because I came along. Make America great again. That's a message from the 45th, now the 47th.
But can't necessarily afford it. So I see it as a win-win. Of course, this is in the end of the game here. It's fewer tax dollars spent on deportation. And we're ridding the country of these migrants. It's not likely that the gang members are going to be leaving voluntarily, but it gives them the possibility of legal U.S. entry as well, which is important. And it debunks the narrative, too, that Trump is anti-immigration. This is not true.
Right.
Again, I'm married to an immigrant. My husband came over to the U.S. from England a few years ago for college. But under Biden, he wasn't able to get his green card because he wasn't willing to get the COVID shot. But day 2 of Donald Trump in office, he vacated this nationwide mandate that would require legal immigrants to get the COVID shot to receive their green card. So it debunks the whole Trump is anti-immigration narrative as well.
You know, Emily, there's been lawfare, all these injunctions against this president. And I would have to think that at least in this way, he can take the reins and say, look, I'm going to CBP home. We're going to turn around Biden's CBP 1 and have you leave the country, self-deport. It is a way to kind of flout, look, you can come after me, but I'm still going to get the job done.
Absolutely. Using his authority that he knows he has, in stark contrast to the prior president that didn't even know what his authority was. And Professor, respectfully, I think what interests me here is I think we're actually rewarding not illegal immigration, but we are rewarding the self-deportation. And I note that it sort of appears to be 3 doors, a choose-your-own adventure, essentially, for the illegal immigrant. And tragically, the compassionate cruelty under the prior administration, their option was sexual assault, rapes, theft, beatings, horrid, deplorable conditions that were paid for by the taxpayers in the United States, but yet they were truly in like squalor, for the entire time. And that was their option under the cartels, under pain of death or violence for their families if they didn't take them up on it. But if they stay here, what I love is that the president has painted what that portrait looks like.
You persuaded me. I'm wrong. I've never said that before on television.
Done. But yeah, I feel like, we showed through the enforcement mechanism of the DOJ, essentially, like, if you stay here, these arrests are going to happen. But look, we'll give you stuffed animals and the like to leave. So I see the comfort that these illegal immigrants have, the safety they have to get home safely, to me seems priceless. But I'm curious your thoughts on
John,
that.
I think you got outnumbered.
No.
They should name a show after that.
I know, right?
Idea.
Such a great idea. You were not outnumbered on the Newark point, though.
Yeah, no. Hey, everyone. I'm Emily Campagno.
All right. Okay. Here we go. A lot is going on. The big, beautiful bill just got even more complicated because the OG, President Trump, just added more to it. He's now saying that the Republicans should add bandwidth, which is
and
the ability
on the left
to
side
be
of your
able
screen,
to
there he
grant
is, just
internet
entering the Capitol
to
now. Let's see if he makes any remarks.
the rest of the world.
We have a tremendously
And he just put out on Truth Social
We've
today.
had a party like this. There are some people that want a couple of things that maybe I don't like or that they're not going to get. But I think we're going to have tremendous, not luck, we have tremendous talent. This man has done an incredible job as Speaker. We had a majority of 1. We were 1 heart attack away from losing the House, okay? Now we have 7. That's a big, because we won some elections, as you probably noticed, and we're going to win a lot of elections. We have an economy that's roaring. We took out $5.1 billion. If you take a look, $5.1 trillion with a T, not a B. $5.1 trillion out of the Middle East. They're investing more than that. It's going to be ultimately more than that. But 180 wide-body Boeing aircraft. They're spending money at levels that nobody's ever seen. Usually a president goes for a trip and he loses money. In other words, he gives money. We went for a trip, but we took out $5.1 trillion. Nobody has ever seen anything like it, and that's just the beginning. So I think we're a very unified party. The Senate's doing great. John Thune is doing fantastically. He's a great guy, and we're going to have a bill, the one big beautiful bill. I think it's the biggest bill ever passed, and we got to get it done. Tremendous tax cuts for people, tremendous incentives, tremendous regulation cuts. All these regulations that are so horrible. And now you find out what happened, because Biden, look, it's a very sad thing what happened, but we're going to start looking into this whole thing with who signed this legislation. Who signed legislation opening our border? I don't think he knew. I said there's nobody that could want an open border, nobody. And now I find out that it wasn't him. He auto-penned it. Who was operating the auto-pen? This is a very serious thing. We had a president that didn't sign anything. He auto-penned almost everything. He opened the borders of the United States of America. And I kept saying, who would do such a thing? Allowing criminals to pour in from all over the world, not just South America, all over the world. They came in from Africa, they came in from Asia, they came from the Congo. The prisons in the Congo in Africa, these are rough people. The prisons from the Congo are empty. You know where they are? They're in this country. Who would sign this? Nobody would sign it. No sane person would sign it. You know who signed it? Radical left lunatics that were running our country, and the auto-pen signed it. And they didn't want him, and they were disappointed in getting him because they wanted Bernie Sanders. And then after about 2 weeks, they said, wait a minute, this is a gift. He'll do anything. We're going to use the auto-pen. And they used the auto-pen and everything. He didn't approve this stuff because when Joe Biden was with it, he would never have approved it. You take a look, he would have never approved open borders. Go ahead, another one.
Are Republicans still grandstanding in your view?
Oh, yeah, sure. You have a couple that will grandstand, but I think even the grandstanders should. Look, the alternative is a 68% tax increase. And you can blame the Democrats for that and 1 or 2 grandstanders. We only have 1 or 2, but we have tremendous support. But you'll have a 68% tax increase, or you'll get a massive tax decrease. You'll get a tax cut, the likes of which we've never had before. This is bigger than any Ronald Reagan tax cut. It's even bigger than the tax cut that I gave, because as you know, that's being extended and increased. So this is the biggest tax cut in the history of our country, or you'll get a 68% tax increase. And if that happens, I mean, what Republican could vote for that to happen? Because they wouldn't be a Republican much longer. They would be knocked out so fast. But we're going up to details. This is I'm a cheerleader for this party, and I'm a cheerleader for the country. Much more importantly for the country. But I'm a cheerleader for the party, and we're going to go up, and I think we're going to have a very good discussion. There are one or two points that some people feel strongly about, but maybe not so strong.
On one of those points, do you consider some of the proposals on the table in co-pay and provider tax as a benefit cut? How are you viewing those?
No, we are looking at one thing. We're not doing any cutting of anything meaningful. The only thing we're cutting is waste, fraud, and abuse. With Medicaid, waste, fraud, and abuse. There's tremendous waste, fraud, and abuse. There's incompetent things put in. We have illegal aliens that are multiple killers with multiple murder records getting Medicaid. I don't think anybody minds if we cut that. The Democrats, on the other hand, are going to destroy it because they're going to leave these people on. We're cutting three things: waste, fraud, and abuse. We're not changing Medicaid, and we're not changing Medicare, and we're not changing Social Security. And if I wanted to do those things, I would have done it during my 4 years that we were.
Mr. President, what's your message to your fellow New Yorker Republicans who are hung up on the SALT issue?
Well, SALT is a very interesting thing because the governors of New York and Illinois, you know, the big JB who's going nowhere. Probably right now he could be the worst governor in the country. But Illinois and Gavin Newsom, those are the people that want this. And they're Democrat states. They're all Democrat states. You know, Ronald Reagan tried very hard to get this passed, was unable to do it the way we have it, where basically everybody's treated equally. He tried it so hard, and he never got it done. He was always disappointed. He never got it done. We got it done. Now people want to change it. So we're going to be talking about that. But the biggest beneficiary, if we do that, are governors from New York, Illinois, and California. And those governors are the ones that blew it because they weren't able to get it. So I think we're going to be explaining that. These are all very blue states that I don't really believe. If we had honest elections, I don't actually believe. I think I would have won California. I would have won New York. I even think I would have won Illinois. I think we have to, you know, we're going to start this after. I was talking to Mike, and again, I'm his biggest fan. I love this guy. He's the only guy who could have walked in with a one. Think of it. You can't be a guy like me and have a one majority. You have to be a guy like him, a nice person. He's very religious. He prays. He's a man of God. And so am I, but he's really to a new level, I will tell you. He is a great guy. They love him in Louisiana, and they love him that's the only kind of guy. Somebody said, oh, well, we want somebody that, if you put a certain personality in there, you would have never, look at what he got passed, what he's gotten passed. And just so you understand, he's getting this passed too. And I don't think there's anybody I could give you guys that is so tough you guys would run if you ever looked at him. If you ever saw some of these guys, you would not ask him questions you'd be afraid to. This guy did something that I don't think there's anybody that's more well-suited to be Speaker of the House, especially under a case like this. Remember, we had a majority of 1 for 6 months, and that was a very frightening thing because the Democrats have really hurt our country. And we are going to go into very much so. Remember what I said, the auto pay. This government was illegally run for 4 years. Thank you very much, everybody.
I'm Steve Ducey.
I'm Brad. We got some sad news over the weekend. Former President Joe Biden revealed he was diagnosed with aggressive prostate cancer that spread to his bones, stage 4. President Biden said, cancer touches all of us. Like so many of you, Jill and I have learned that we are strongest in the broken places. Thank you for lifting us up with love and support. President Trump wished Biden a fast and successful recovery. We here hope President Biden is getting proper care and keeps fighting. This was a shocking diagnosis. How did the best medical team in the country let the world's most powerful man's cancer go undetected until now? Biden was the one who caught it himself. He had urinary issues, went to the doctor, and they found a nodule. That's not how prostate cancer is detected these days. Doctors usually find it way earlier through blood tests. But Biden wasn't given a cancer screening at his last medical checkup about a year ago.
It is interesting to note that President Trump's, President Obama's, and President Bush II, in their most recent physicals, in their terms of office, obviously 2025 for President Trump, did comment on their PSA levels. And so they got screened while in office, and they commented on it. There is not a report of a PSA test on the most recent physical that was read out for President Biden's last year in office.
Which doctor decided not to screen President Biden for prostate cancer, and why? Biden's not a healthy man. He had skin cancer when he was president. He broke his foot, had 2 pretty bad cases of COVID. And before he was president, he had 2 brain aneurysms. Why aren't they doing a full battery of tests on America's oldest president? Yale Dr. Howard Foreman says it's inconceivable that this wasn't caught earlier. Dr. Zeke Emanuel, a Biden guy, says Biden's had prostate cancer for years.
If you have prostate cancer that is spread to the bone, then he's most certainly, you were saying, had it when he was president of the United States.
Oh, yeah. He did not develop it in the last 100, 200 days. He had it while he was president. He probably had it at the start of his presidency in 2021. Yes, that I don't think there's any disagreement about that.
Other doctors think the cancer could have been spreading for a decade.
The fact that we just find it at a Gleason 9 is just pretty much unheard of in this day and age of medicine. Most likely, he had prostate cancer for a long time. And I mean, usually it takes from the first diagnosis of prostate cancer to spread would take 5 to 10 years, even in the most aggressive form.
Biden's son died of brain cancer. Seems like the big guy was high risk. Why not run a test? We know they never ran a cognitive test, and now they don't run a test for cancer. Biden had more COVID tests than cancer tests. Gutfeld speculated Biden's people may have been motivated by power.
Joe's dysfunction may have been caused not by disability, but by debility, meaning he was worn down on purpose, deliberately kept feeble and weak, which made him pliable, like a POW, except the W stands for White House. Joe's dysfunction was not prevented when it could have been because it kept him easily managed.
It's fair to speculate that Biden's doctors aren't telling the truth. It could have been medical malpractice, it could have been a fluke, or it could have been a medical cover-up. We have every right to ask questions because of the White House's history of lying.
Is it possible that they were withholding his PSA levels or some symptoms that he was having? It's possible, but I can tell you that he has an aggressive, fast-acting form of prostate cancer. It could have formed in the last 6 months. It could have started forming 6 years ago.
Other doctors are speculating Biden may have had cancer this whole time and was receiving cancer treatment and not disclosing it.
Do you feel like that's an accurate or a reasonable analysis of the situation, that he's known for quite some time and he was undergoing treatment for prostate cancer?
There's a high probability. The fact that they're now looking at terminal disease, this is terminal. He's gonna be gone in 2 or 3 years. Although to be fair, prostate cancer research is moving so fast, they might come up with something that could extend it out 5 or 7 years where he might die of something else first. But he has a terminal condition. At presentation, somebody who's getting regular medical management, it doesn't present as metastatic disease. It's just not how it works. So somebody is known for quite a while.
A doctor on CNN is suggesting that alleged secret cancer treatments could explain Biden's cognitive decline.
One of the biggest side effects that I see in my patients that get these hormone treatments could be cognitive changes. So you have to kind of balance that. People can also get issues with fatigue and weight loss. But when he has stuff in his bones, he's also at higher risk for fractures. So it is a very sensitive conversation.
Dr. Siegel says it's highly unlikely Biden didn't already know he had cancer, and it's time to come clean.
I think they should be public at exactly when this was diagnosed. Brian, we were talking last week about when were the cognitive issues diagnosed. I want to know when this was found exactly. I want to know why. I want to know exactly when this was found.
Trump's former White House doctor, Ronnie Jackson, who treated Biden when he was VP, says Biden's doctor was distracted. Quote, care at the White House should be second to none. Unbelievable this was missed. But the truth is, his physician was more concerned about assisting with the political cover-up than providing world-class medical care. Dr. Kevin O'Connor has some explaining to do. He's not just your average doctor. He was involved in the Biden family business. Biden brought him in because he trusted him and knew he could keep secrets.
And welcome to Hannity. And tonight, fired former FBI Director Jim Comey. He is at it again after posting seashells seemingly calling for Donald Trump to be murdered, or 8647 on Instagram. Gee, he never thought what that might mean. Anyway, Mr. Higher Honored James Comey, the coward that he is, ran to his favorite network, MSDNC, to declare his righteousness, his innocence, and there were no heartfelt apologies, no well wishes for the president, who was shot on stage only a few months ago. Instead, Comey was full of excuses, and he actually tried to make the case that it's not Donald Trump. No, he's the victim here. Take a look.
And we saw in the sand someone had arranged shells with numbers. And Patrice, my wife, said, why would someone put an address in the sand? And I said, I don't know. And we stood over it, and I said, I think it's some kind of like political message. And she said, 86, when I was a server, she did a lot of work in restaurants, meant to remove an item from the menu when you ran out of ingredients. And I said, well, to me, as a kid, it always meant to leave a place, to ditch a place. It's hard to have regret about something that, even in hindsight, looks to me to be totally innocent.
Sounds a little too cute by half, doesn't it? The head of the FBI, he knows what 86 means, to be 86. James Comey to me is a liar who, from day one, has tried to get Donald Trump one way or another. He used Hillary's phony, dirty Russian disinformation dossier, you might recall, to obtain secret FISA warrants against the Trump campaign and spy on that and his transition team and the White House. He personally signed 3 out of 4 of them. He perpetuated the Russia hoax, even when he knew it was a smear campaign orchestrated by Democrats. And according to reports, he was warned in 2016, in August to be specific, not to use the political research, which now has totally been debunked. As a matter of fact, it was only years later, under questioning from Senator Lindsey Graham, that he finally admitted that, knowing what he knows now, he never would have ever signed the warrants. Wow, we knew it then. He knew it then, too. Take a look.
Knowing then what you know now about all the things that we've come to find, would you have still signed the warrant application against Carter Page in October, January, and April?
No, I would want a much more complete understanding of what we were.
Thank you very much.
No, he wouldn't have. And by the way, that Carter Page, that was a backdoor to all things Trump world. Actually, it's what he knew then. That's what matters. Under his repulsive so-called leadership of the FBI, he transformed what was the world's premier law enforcement agency into nothing more than an arm of the Democratic Party, and became from day one the leader of the Trump derangement syndrome deep state. And now he wants to sell a book, wants to get rich, while casually calling for what? Putting out an Instagram post, 8647. That sounds like somebody wanting the assassination of a sitting U.S. president. And then act like I have no idea what that means. I think it's political in nature. Oh, let's act dumb. It's time for Comey to be held accountable. Now, we'll have much more on this straight ahead tonight. But first, we do begin with terrible news. Joe Biden, the former president, has now been diagnosed with stage 4 prostate cancer. Sadly, this has metastasized to his bones. Of course, everybody should pray for him, wish him well. Cancer is a horrific disease, and no one deserves to go through this. Unfortunately, Biden's cancer is aggressive, with a Gleason score of 9, which is almost unheard of, according to close friends, medical doctors that I know. And according to most physicians, this type of prostate cancer. It takes years to get to this point. Even over at MSDNC, one-time Biden ally oncologist Ezekiel Emanuel stated with quite confidence that the former president likely had prostate cancer for up to 10 years, including all 4 years that he was in the White House. Take a look.
Doesn't it take some time for prostate cancer to develop to a point where it would spread to the bones?
Oh, he's had this for many years, maybe even a decade, growing there and spreading. That's right.
This is not speculation. If you have prostate cancer that is spread to the bone, then he's most certainly, you were saying, had it when he was president of the United States.
Oh, yeah. He did not develop it in the last 100, 200 days. He had it while he was president. He probably had it at the start of his presidency.
Now, keep in mind, this is generally a slow-moving cancer. As a matter of fact, most men will die with some prostate cancer, but they won't die from prostate cancer. Now, it's one of the most detectable cancers that does exist. In fact, detection is very simple. A standard blood test, they call it a PSA test, and for the last 4 years, the president has enjoyed world-class medical care as president with rigorous testing, or what should have been rigorous testing. So the question tonight, what happened? Why are we learning about this stage 4 cancer diagnosis now? It has sadly metastasized to his bones. That has now put his life in jeopardy. Of course, this comes in the shadow of a very real cover-up conducted by Joe Biden's family, his staffers, the state-run legacy media mob surrounding the former president's obvious cognitive decline, or as Van Jones put it very truthfully, a crime against our republic. Take a look.
I was shocked to see his condition when he came out, and so was the world. And that wasn't the first time he was in that condition. The book makes it very, very clear. There are people who knew and said nothing. And that is a crime against this republic. And I think the Democrats are going to pay for a long time for being a part of what is now being revealed to be a massive cover-up.
Now, every week since at least 2019, right here on this program, we sounded the alarm about Joe Biden's mental difficulties and his cognitive decline. Now, at the time, we were ridiculed, we were mocked, we were called conspiracy theorists, but every night we brought the tape to you, our viewers, very real, not cheap fake videos of Joe Biden struggling to function. They didn't do any of this on fake news, CNN or MSDNC or the 3 major networks. That would include, by the way, the Washington Post, New York Times. They lied to their readers. They lied to their viewers. They did it day after day. They did it night after night. And they lapped up whatever garbage the White House was feeding them about Joe Biden's. Oh, this has to do with the fact that he stutters, or, it's hard for us to keep up with him, even though we're only, 30 years old. Now, fake Jake Tapper, he's poised to make a lot of money pretending that he and other journalists were a victim of a White House cover-up. Jake, if you have eyes to see and ears to hear, did you really think it was strange that Joe was taking every weekend off while never doing any unscripted pressers, getting his questions ahead of time from your fellow journalists? Or what about falling again and again and wandering off stage and getting lost and never holding cabinet meetings? What about the Hur report? The special counsel declined to recommend charges in Biden's classified documents probe, not from a lack of evidence, but because they determined that Joe Biden wasn't fit to stand trial, or, as Hur himself put it, the president was an elderly man with a very poor memory. The Biden White House fought tooth and nail to prevent the audio of that interview from being released, and for good reason. Take a listen.
What was happening, though, 1 month ago, dying, May 30th, 2015 he died. 2015. I think it's 2015.
I'm not sure the months are, but I think that was.
Yeah.
That's right, Mr. President.
And what's happened in the meantime is that Trump gets elected in November of 2017? 2016. All right. So, what, 2017 here?
That's when you left office, January of 2017.
Okay. But that's when Trump gets sworn in.
Right.
January.
Right. Correct.
Okay. Yeah. Correct. And in 2017, Bo had passed, and this is personal.
He didn't know the year that his son passed. He didn't know the year that Donald Trump was elected. Now, my father died in late March of 1997. I remember it well. The meandering interview was really bad. There were points during the interview where Biden didn't make any sense at all. Take a listen.
You know, I went to Mongolia and great pictures. I unfortunately embarrassed the hell out of the leader of Mongolia. They were doing what they would do at the time of the invasion of the Mongols into Europe in the 800s. And so we're out in the middle of nowhere, and you're looking up on the hill and you see this tiny line. You know, it's a 20-mile horse race with all these kids under the age of 16 on bareback racing to come down. And, you know, they're sumo wrestlers and doing everything they do. And so they walked over and they had a target, big bales of hay 100 yards away. And these guerrillas were, you know, taking shots. And I think, I don't know if it embarrassed me or to make a point, but they handed the bow and arrow. I'm not a bad archer. But the only problem they were if I could pull it back, so and pure luck, I hit the target. No, I really did.
Whoever told Biden it was a good idea to run for re-election? Why did they lie to all of you? You know, was it the woman pictured right there sitting at the head of Biden's last cabinet meeting, Dr. Jill Biden? Did she not know? Really? Are we to believe that? You know, did she not know firsthand about her husband and the cognitive struggles that were clear and obvious to anybody with eyes to see? Now, either she's delusional or she simply just flat out lied to everyone. And so did his staffers, and so did elected Democrats on the Hill, and the state-run legacy media mob. This is probably the biggest scandal in American presidential history, certainly the greatest national security threat in history. And so, like many Americans, I have questions about the timing of all of this. And while we're at it, could someone really tell us, you know, who was in charge during Biden's years as president? Because it wasn't Joe.
I'm so glad I flossed. My teeth, too. Happy Monday, everyone. So it was announced that former President Joe Biden has advanced prostate cancer. I'm sure the announcement had nothing to do with the recently released Her audio and the bombshell book about his cognitive decline. Just like I think how Yoko Ono had nothing to do with the Beatles breaking up. Yeah, and that rash I got had nothing to do with my weekend at the Mustang Ranch. After hearing the news of Biden's cancer, Hillary Clinton posted, quote, "Wishing you a speedy recovery, and let me know if there's anyone you want me to murder." Also, after hearing the news of Biden's cancer, Hillary's husband posted, "Does your nurse have big cans?" Several inmates are still at large after escaping a New Orleans jail. The prisoners had escaped last week through a hole behind a toilet. Authorities warned the public that these inmates are armed, dangerous, and covered in How I like them. India failed to launch a satellite to observe Earth when the rockets malfunctioned. They could have saved it, but one of the engineers decided to press 1 to get a call back from tech support. Meteorologists are projecting unusually high temperatures in Southern California this week. Citizens are told to seek shade under Kim Kardashian's ass. Rumors are once again swirling that Lauren Boebert is dating Kid Rock. Yeah, after both were seen in public wearing earplugs. Almost half of Gen Z admitted to lying on their resumes in a recent survey. Yeah, don't I know it? My last 3 assistants claimed they were comfortable around nude men. And finally, a New York City woman ran the Brooklyn Half Marathon in a wedding dress, hoping to find a husband. Well, if that's her goal, she should have dressed up as a sandwich.
A sexist would say.
All right. So tapes from the Her Report were released. In case you missed it, here's a snippet.
Trump gets elected in November of 2017? 2016. All right. So, why have 2017 here?
That's when you left office, January of 2017.
Okay. But that's when Trump gets sworn in.
Correct.
This guy was president, and not of the Brian Kilmeade fan club, which, by the way, has no members, but the United States. And those in power, the Democrats, they gaslit us over this, while the media provided cover.
This is ageism snuck into a report clearing the person of any wrongdoing.
You were not born yesterday. You understood exactly what you were doing.
He's not a medical doctor. He's just not.
The comments that were made by that prosecutor, gratuitous, inaccurate, and inappropriate.
Many American people have been watching, and they have expressed concerns about your age.
That is your judgment. That is your judgment. That is not the judgment of the press.
I'm just saying this guy says such random about his
Stop. He's 81, and his memory, it doesn't seem great. It's not horrible.
Ugh. I'm so glad none of these people are doctors, especially this one. Now, you never know. If anything, Her handled Biden with kid gloves because he saw what we saw and what the media tried to hide. And so the Her Report is the latest nail in the media's coffin. Now it's time to bury them and let maggots and worms do their thing. But forget the Dems for a moment. They have a reason for lying. For them, politics is a team sport, and lying is the playbook. They'll tell you higher prices are a good thing, or that Tim Walz is a man's man, or that the only thing missing from girls' sports is a penis. But the media betrayed their profession and put the country in danger, and that can't be forgiven. It's clear Biden wasn't running the country. Hell, he couldn't have run a dishwasher. And they knew that. Under Biden, we saw awful things occur. War, terror, crime, Jesse getting his own show. Would none of that have happened if someone was actually president? They knew the presidency was a sham, and they ridiculed anyone who said otherwise because he had a D next to his name. It makes me wonder, is there any industry like the media that orchestrated a similar cover-up, one that hid dangers to the American people in service to wealth and power? One comes to mind, the tobacco industry. For decades, they hid the fact that cigarettes were killing millions, until finally they had to put warning labels on their product. My favorite is the one that says smoking reduces blood flow, which causes erectile dysfunction. It's so much easier than telling a woman that she's a 5. Oh, how nice. Oh, you guys. But over time, smoking decreased. People still do it because it's fun and cool, unlike the media. True, the media's lies are a danger to your health. They'll push getting rid of cops and going soft on criminals. Then they'll tell you that the crime stats went down. But at least smoking offers some relief and you can stomp it out when you're done with it. Think about it. Unlike smoking, you never hear a coworker say, hey, I'm going to go outside and take a Jake Tapper break. No one stands out in the cold in front of a bar inhaling clips of Meet the Press. No one ever says, can I bum a Lawrence O'Donnell off you? The closest you hear is, I ran into Don Lemon panhandling during my smoke break. True. No prisoner will give you a hand job in exchange for some Face the Nation with Margaret Brennan. Those words were never put together in that fashion. But isn't it weird that you can't smoke on an airplane, yet you're allowed to watch Nicole Wallace? But this is good news. It means that unlike smoking, the bond between America and its joyless media is weaker than the sexual tension on Morning Joe. Meaning, once we realize its true harm, the break will be as clean and final as Joe Theismann's leg. I know. You won't even need a warning label. Although, they deserve one. It could go like this. Warning, quitting media now greatly reduces serious risks to your health. Legacy media causes dementia while denying dementia. It causes division, anger, and misery, then blames you for it. Media enables crime and blames victims, covers for corruption, and may lead to murder, war, and even worse, more WNBA. See, parents should treat legacy media just like smoking, a habit that'll ruin their kids' lives. And if you catch them watching a show on CNN, make them binge watch the whole 24-hour cycle. They'll be puking through their eyeballs. And if your kids still don't get it, point them to those who still believe the news, the unhinged mobs disconnected from friends and family. It's as simple as turning on The View. You don't need a lab x-ray for that, just 2 eyeballs and a decent sense of smell.
Let's welcome tonight's guest.
He has a voice for radio and the face for a milk carton. Host of The Guy Benson Show, Guy Benson. She gives the news on Fox and drinks wine from a box. Fox News anchor Julie Banderas. His head was inspiration for roll-on deodorant. Host of the Jim Norton Can't Save You podcast, Jim Norton. And she knows alternative rock and loves a good stiff drink. Host of the Kennedy Saves the World podcast, Kennedy. All right, Guy, a lot of bad news this week, but it feels like they're trying to juxtapose today's bad news as a way to push away the other bad news about the cover-up. What say you, bearded guy?
So I saw Hakeem Jeffries, the Democratic leader in the House, come out today and say that Republicans are pushing conspiracy theories.
Yes.
For suggesting what you just did, which is the Her tapes come out, they're devastating on Friday. And then by Sunday, that weekend, they put a button on it, they put a bookend on it, and they announce the cancer. Now, I have no idea. I'm not making an allegation. I don't know what actually happened. I don't know when he was diagnosed. Maybe it really came down on Saturday. But are we really doing the conspiracy theory thing? Are they going to go back to that well again?
Yeah, everything's...
He's dismissing it as a conspiracy theory. It's like, dude, everything we've been saying about this guy and his condition is correct.
Yeah.
And the other one that they are saying, and he said it, and a lot of the other leftists in the media and the Democratic Party, they're saying, let's look forward. Let's move forward. Let's stop looking backward. No, I'm not over this because of what they perpetrated on us. And also, what are we supposed to move forward to? Their next new and exciting lies?
This is a really good point, and I'm surprised you had it. No, the only people, Julie, that say let's move forward are the people who commit crimes. Right. It's like I've seen so many on Instagram people getting arrested, and they're just like, "Oh, come on, you got the stuff. Just let me go." When they're shoplifting, they go, "You already got this. Just let me go." No, we have to take you to court.
Right. No, that happened to me when I was arrested when I was 16. I was like, come on, just let it go. It was minor shoplifting, not a big deal. But no, I mean, this is the
That wasn't
boy...
when you were a teenager. That was last week, Julie.
Well, they dropped the charges, so it doesn't count. So this is a boy cried wolf, unfortunately, scenario. And so when they accuse Republicans of coming up with conspiracy theories, medical doctors, medical experts have said that there's a very good chance that he was diagnosed 6 months, if not 6 years ago. Yeah. So that is a very likely medical reason. The reason for the lies, however, is just a simple cover-up. And I myself am a former liar.
Yes.
So I know a liar when I see one. Like when I was 19 and I got pulled over by a cop and he asked me, "Did you know your license is suspended?" Mm-hmm. I said, "No." That was not the truth. But that's selective memory. That's not memory loss.
Yes. And good for you for being honest now. You know, it's a surprise. We actually have the police officer here. Come out here, officer.
And I only had to serve community service once, and that was when I was 16. So obviously...
Yeah. What, were you picking up trash?
I've really turned my life around.
Were you picking up trash on the highway?
Yes.
Or did that come later?
No, I worked at a nursing home, and I cleaned up piss and served pizza.
Better than the reverse.
I hope you didn't clean up the piss with the pizza.
No, I did not.
Jimmy, I missed that. I assume it was disgusting. I'll watch it when I get home. Jimmy, you're both a media expert and a medical expert, so your phone must be ringing off the hook.
Yes, Greg, it is. Thank you for pointing that out.
Yeah.
I watched and listened to the audio of that, and he reminded me of me when my wife finds a nude photo of another woman on my phone. Tuesday. Who? I don't know. It was 17th?
Yes.
He's just, and he's still a better speaker than Kamala when you watch.
Yes, it's true.
But they are, I felt bad for him. Like, I really felt bad for him. Like, he's just an old guy who's losing his memory. And it made me hate the press so much more than I've already hated them for years. Because they knew. I don't blame, again, his vice president. What is Kamala going to say? Yeah. She can't get up at the podium and go, yeah, he's got tomato soup for brains. She's got to act like he's doing great, but the press is just unforgivable.
Yeah, the thing is, that's why even the Democrats are going to lie whenever they can. Yeah. You can't just blame them for everybody in politics lies, but the media is not supposed to pick a side. Kennedy, what do you think about my theory? And I think I'm the only one who's floated this because I'm a weirdo, that it's not a disability, it was a debility in which they deliberately kept Biden kind of frail and weak because he was easier to manage. They could pass whatever they wanted. He didn't ask questions because he was always tired.
I'm going to give you a label for this.
Yes.
Political Munchausen syndrome.
Oh.
They made the president even sicker and kept him debilitated. So people would go, oh my goodness, all of you around him, you are so incredibly brave. Dr. Jill, Corinne Jean-Pierre, Ron Klain, you are doing the Lord's work here. And meanwhile, like if you listen to stories about the debate prep, they kept him going. They were pushing and pushing. I don't care what it says in those books because they wanted him exhausted. They wanted him absolutely depleted.
I think you're totally right. I think that they would have him do things right before he had to do something so he would be tired.
And they knew scramble his brain.
Yeah.
They knew exactly the outcome, and that's what they were looking for, which, to Guy's point, makes the whole thing so much more sadistic and sinister. And Kamala, she's not a good speaker, and she also got caught in the ultimate lie about Biden's wherewithal, and people will respect a smart liar. We have no patience for a dumb liar. And there's so many idiots in the Democrat Party right now, from Karen Bass to Gavin Newsom and all the California just dip. Let's hear it for California dip. But I fear what they're going to put before us next and how they will lie to us in 2028.
That was the biggest round of applause Munchausen syndrome has ever gotten.
Yes.
Very impressive. World record.
We're bringing it back.
And we're bringing it back.
I don't have Munchausen syndrome, but I'm trying to make sure other people have it.
You've got Munchkin syndrome.
What I did there?
Yeah, I have that too. I went out with a girl. She has a great housing. Christ.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey.
Thank you for tuning into the live show. Yes. Okay, so a lot is still going on in the United States, from Vladimir Putin to Ukraine, the president trying to end the war in that region. Of course, the GOP big beautiful bill, well, the president's big beautiful bill, some people are saying that he is becoming impatient. Take a look at this. There we go.
Happening now on the Hill. The meeting is over. Drop on in.
Love in that room. There was no shouting. I think it was a meeting of love. There were a couple of things that we talked about specifically where some people felt a little bit one way or the other, not a big deal. And I covered them. It wasn't so much a speech. I covered certain points. And I think there was, I'd be very surprised.
You told him you were losing patience. Are you losing patience?
No, I didn't tell him. Who told you I said I'm losing patience?
That's what we heard inside the room. You said
It's a lie. Wait a minute.
patience?
Wait. Who's told you that?
We heard from people inside the room.
Oh,
It's
really?
true, the message.
It's totally true. I never used the term. I didn't say losing. I didn't even talk about it. In fact, it's the opposite. I think we're going to get it done. I'm not losing patience. We're ahead of schedule. Anybody that told you that is a liar. Wait a minute. I never mentioned the word losing patience because I'm not losing patience. We're ahead of schedule.
That's why I asked you. I want to get
Well,
clarity.
why don't you go back to your source and tell them they're liars if the source even exists?
Oh, man.
Passes the House.
Yeah.
Senators are already talking about making a number of changes over
Sure.
their chamber.
Always
Is
have.
that okay?
Yeah.
We want them to swallow
Yeah,
this bill.
in some cases they have things that I like even better. No, it always happens. There'll be some changes. But John Thune and Mike have been very closely aligned on this. They've been moving it up together.
Apparently you said don't F with Medicaid. Apparently you did say in the room. There is some concern among some Republicans, including Senator Josh Hawley, that this could impact benefits and that could be amount to a quote hidden tax on the.
I didn't say. Here's what I said.
I'm wondering if you're.
Here's what I said. What do you want to say? I said waste, fraud, and abuse for Medicaid. If you find waste or fraud or abuse, we want to strengthen Medicaid. We want to strengthen Medicare. Waste, fraud, and abuse. The Democrats will let illegals be on. They'll destroy it. It will be destroyed. They want to have illegal immigrants be on. And if you do that, because it wasn't designed for that. Waste, fraud, and abuse.
Can you guarantee that your voters who supported you in the election, particularly working class voters, will not lose health insurance under this bill?
Oh, they won't lose health insurance. Not only that, remember, I'm cutting drug prices by 85%. And right now, I'm saving it. I'm saving the whole thing because I did something that nobody was willing to do. Other countries pay a tiny fraction what we do. And I instituted favored nations. We're now going to pay the lowest in the world. We're going to be the equivalent of the lowest country in the world. People go to London, they go to Canada, they go to other countries, many other countries, because they want to buy their pharmaceutical products, their drugs, at a fraction of the cost. Now we're going to have the lowest cost anywhere in the world, and nobody else would do that but me. And that might be an election by itself, might be election winning. Now, when you add that in, when you put that into Medicaid and Medicare, we've just strengthened Medicare and Medicaid. And the Democrats won't do that. You know why? Because they're taken care of by the drug companies. And the ones that are taken care of are hard line. Some Republicans get money from drug companies, and that's okay, because they're okay with it. I talked about it. The drug companies take care of everybody. It's the biggest lobby, most powerful lobby in the world. There's no lobby like that. But the Republicans are okay with it. Not only okay with it, they love it. It was.
Now, most people have been saying that, well, liberals have been saying that he's for the big companies. He's trying to save the big companies. He's trying to make sure they don't pay too much taxes. He's trying to cut taxes on billionaires. Well, if he's trying to cut taxes for billionaires and big companies, why is he doing this? Why is he telling Walmart to eat the cost of tariff? Why is he telling Apple the same thing? Why is he telling Amazon the same thing? If this man that everybody, well, the liberals are saying that he's only for the rich. Why is he trying to bring prescription drugs cost down? Does that make sense to you guys? Liberals, okay. You're just full of fake news. This guy is trying to make America great by reducing cost, bringing manufacturing back to the United States, securing the border, ending wars, reducing inflation, reducing interest rate, bringing down prices, and it's forcing it down this big company's throat. It's telling them you're going to have to eat the cost of tariff. If you do anything stupid, I will be watching. How is he for big business if he's doing all of this stuff? Okay.
So we're going to cut drug prices from 75 to 85, in some cases even more than that. You know, I was telling the story that, and some of you were at that news conference. I gave a news conference where I was the first one in 18 years to cut drug costs for the year. And they were like a quarter of a point to half a point less. And I was very proud of that. Now I'm cutting them by 80, 85% because I stopped the scam. This was a scam between the middlemen and the drug companies. This was a giant scam. And by the way, and other countries, because other countries fought for this. This was a giant scam, and we're not going to have it. So remember this. Go back and tell your people, if you'd like to, that the Republican Party is cutting the cost of drugs by as much as 85%. Not 8%, not 5%, not 1%.
The truth is, these big companies, these rich billionaires that you guys think actually love Trump, they don't like Trump. That's the truth about the issue. They don't like Trump. The rich billionaires, the rich companies, the wealthy companies, they don't like Trump because he's making everybody see how they have been taken advantage of. They don't like him. That's why they raided his home. That's why they tried to put him in jail. That's why he got to attempt on his life. If you were not a problem, if you were not a problem for this top 1%, you think all of these things would have happened to Trump? No. Like I always say, I'm not comparing Trump to Jesus Christ. This is not a comparison. However, the Pharisees, the ones who were supposed to be upholding the laws, the ones who were supposed to be the law keeper, okay? The ones who were supposed to be abiding by the law, who knew the law. When Jesus came to earth, what did they say about him? When he was healing the sick, healing the deaf, making the blind see again, feeding thousands of people on the Sabbath day. They said, you don't do this on the Sabbath day. I'm solving problems. You're telling me I don't do this on the Sabbath day? Why? And guess what happened? Well, we know the story of Jesus Christ, the Savior. He was crucified. By who? The same people who were supposed to uphold the law. Same folks. Okay? The ones who knew the laws. The ones who claimed they knew the laws from back to front and front to back. They still crucified Jesus. If they knew the law so bad, why didn't they read the part where they said a Savior would come? Every description in that story depicts Jesus as the Savior, yet he was crucified. Okay. Shout out to Luke the GOAT. Shout out to you. Thank you for the super chat. He says, Trump doesn't need drugs. Just tell him you are from ABC. That's wild, dog. Luke the GOAT. Appreciate you. Thank you.
85%. And you're going to have the lowest drug prices anywhere in the world because I'm doing favored nations. And it's all done. I signed it. and the Democrats will unsign it, and the drug prices are going to go. And I think on that issue alone, you can't lose an election.
Mr. President, weaponizing with the arrest of a congresswoman, Democratic congresswoman.
Oh, give me a break. Did you see her? She was out of control.
Did you address
those days are over.
Did
The
you
days
tell her
of
to do
woke.
that?
The days of woke. No, I didn't. The days of woke are over. That woman, I have no idea who she is. That woman was out of control. She was shoving federal agents. She was out of control. The days of that crap are over in this country. We're going to have law and order.
Mr. President, thank you very much. You campaigned on lowering the price of groceries. How do you justify cutting food assistance in this bill?
Let me just tell you, the cut is going to give everybody much more food because prices are coming way down. Groceries are down. Eggs. You told me about eggs. You asked me a question about eggs my first week. You said eggs. I said, I just got here. Tell me about eggs. And it was going through the roof. You know that eggs now are way down. Everybody's buying eggs. Groceries down. Energy's down.
Thank you for tuning into the live show. God bless you. Double tap your screen, subscribe to the channel. The GOAT strikes again one more time, of course, the legend. Well, I'm going to have to add the legend to your name, Luke, okay? Because you've moved from just being the GOAT to also being the legendary GOAT. All right? The legendary GOAT says, that's right, Genesis. Even Trump believes in being used by God. He doesn't think he is God. Exactly. Nobody can be God because God is God. No man on earth or beyond can be God. Okay? But you can be a vessel of God. God can use you for greatness, like this man out here.
Gasoline is now they're buying gasoline now for $1.99. If you look back, you'll see $3.50, $4. This country, we're going to lose this country. Our country now is respected all over the world. All over the world we're respected. We were a laughingstock. The entire world we were a laughingstock. I went to the Middle East, and those rulers of those three countries are very powerful people, very big people, very rich people. They respect our country again. China was going to take them over. You know, China was going to get they were going to get into the, if you look, Saudi Arabia, you take a little look what was happening with Qatar, UAE, great people, unbelievable leaders, but they were abandoned by this country. And they're not going to China anymore. They love us, we love them. We're going to take care of them, and they're going to take care of us. We came back with $5.1 trillion.
Exactly.
Every other president would have come back having spent $5.1 trillion as usual. And remember this, we were losing $5 billion a day under the past administration. I have to be a little careful the way I talk because there's a lot of anger about that administration. And by the way, the real question, who ran the auto pen? Okay, who ran the auto pen? Because the things that were signed illegally, in my opinion. I think we've just proved that. But our country is respected again. All over the world we're respected. We were laughed at 7 months ago. Then you had November 5th, and our country is respected again. Thank you.
Here is a president that actually answers questions, deliberates with his people, comes out here transparent. What else do you want, liberals? What else would you like? Well, for the liberals, okay? Because this is a free speech channel. We let you say what you want, except some people just need to be blocked, okay? But for the most part, we don't block people, no matter what you say, okay? It is free speech out here. Now, with that being said, this right here is for the liberals, CNN. Here we go.
President Donald Trump delivered a blunt message as he met behind closed doors with Republican lawmakers on Capitol Hill today. Sources say that Trump told them to quit negotiating, push ahead with his sweeping domestic policy agenda. Infighting among House Republicans is threatening to derail his so-called Big Beautiful Bill. Hardliners are worried that proposed cuts don't go far enough to address the nation's bulging deficit. And even as Trump warned lawmakers not to, quote, F around with Medicaid, according to sources inside the room, some Republicans are still raising issues about potential cuts and the addition of increased work requirements to the program. Today, Trump downplayed those concerns.
Can you guarantee that your voters who supported the new election, particularly working class voters, will not lose health insurance under this bill?
Oh, they won't lose health insurance?
You campaigned on lowering the price of groceries. How will you justify cutting food assistance in this bill?
Let me just tell you, the cut is going to give everybody much more food.
CNN's Lauren Fox is covering this from Capitol Hill. Lauren, the president saying that there was a lot of love inside the room at this meeting, but then the Republicans got out of the meeting and essentially said, a lot of them, we can't vote for this bill.
Yeah, I mean, what the president is dealing with is the same conundrum that Mike Johnson, the House Speaker, has been dealing with over the course of his speakership. And that is the reality that he has a very divided conference and a very narrow majority at a moment when everyone is asking for various and conflicting things. He is about to go and meet with members from the New York delegation who are upset because they want to increase the amount that taxpayers in their districts can pay and deduct from their federal taxes for their state and local taxes. That is an issue that they say that they are going to continue fighting for. They got another offer from the speaker last night. It wasn't good enough. Even after the meeting with Donald Trump today, I am told they still are voting against this bill as it's currently written. We're going to see if the speaker can convince them in his office in a couple of minutes to get on board, given the fact that Donald Trump's message was clear today. It is time to put the pens down and get on board with this piece of legislation. We are not going to be arguing about this much longer. The speaker has set this very ambitious deadline of wanting to move this bill by Thursday. By that deadline, the Memorial Day recess that is coming up next week, he has threatened to keep members in town if they can't get there. Obviously, you know, if you keep members in town when they're frustrated, that can cause even bigger issues down the line. But it's really interesting because conservatives are also warning that they're not there yet. Here they are.
I didn't feel attacked in there. I think he was just trying to persuade people who weren't there yet.
Did he change your mind?
Yeah. No.
Do you feel like the president moved the needle?
The president, I don't think, convinced enough people that the bill is adequate the way it is. Look, the president called for eliminating waste, fraud, and abuse in Medicaid, and we have not eliminated waste, fraud, and abuse in Medicaid in this bill.
And conservatives are arguing that they want to see deeper cuts to Medicaid. This bill already does make some changes to that program, including additional and new work requirements for able-bodied individuals between the ages of 18 and 64. There's also a new regulation that requires that if you are on Medicaid, you re-register every 6 months to make sure people aren't abusing or using the program when they aren't eligible for it. But some of these conservatives want even bigger changes, including the fact that they think the federal government is contributing too much to states when it comes to that Medicaid expansion population. That is something the speaker has said time and time again is off the table. These conservatives still want it, so we'll see whether or not any of that gets brought back into the conversation in the next couple of hours. Meanwhile, at 1 a.m. tomorrow morning, we expect the House Rules Committee to begin deliberating on this bill. That gives the speaker less than 12 hours at this point to get a deal.
We'll see how it goes. Lauren Fox on Capitol Hill, thanks so much.
And I'm joined by a terrific group of reporters here at the table today. CNN's John Berman, Abby Livingston of Puck, Shane Goldmacher of the New York Times, and CNN's Brian Stelter. Abby, I know that you cover Congress for Puck. I'm going to start with you and just pick up where Manu left off on the so-called SALT caucus. These tend to be more of the moderate lawmakers. Some of them maybe are more conservative, but they represent blue states and in many instances swing district. I was told that this SALT caucus went to the House Speaker during the meeting and said point blank, we are still a no. And Mike Lawler, who's a leader of that movement, maybe one of the most kind of on the bubble when it comes to his politics in his district, he said to me, I'm not budging.
I mean, we are in a moment, and
moderates of this ilk tend to be the ones who cave on these sorts of bills, and we are just seeing their spine possibly grow stronger. But what we often see, whether it was the speaker's vote or many of these other difficult whips for the speaker and the president, is we see a lot of brazen comments, and then these members get on the phone with Trump, and then suddenly their mood changes. So this is an extremely difficult puzzle, and I think one thing to consider is this is Trump's big legacy bill on the legislative end, but this is also a political project of establishing dominance over the Republican Party on Capitol Hill, and this is the ultimate test because he's making them vote against their political interests.
If this time is different, though, it's because they need salt to live. Look, humans need salt to live. It's true. Look it up. And these vulnerable House Republicans need salt to live. They've been promising this relief for years.
Sounds
Donald
like somebody
Trump
who watches
promised it.
television in a blue state. And
No, it
sees
sounds
the
like
ads.
I'm out myself as a proud New Jersey resident, all right? And all of my neighbors, they are one-issue voters. This is the only issue they care about. They've been promised relief for years. Donald Trump promised relief when he went to Long Island last year. And if they backtrack, if these vulnerable Republicans lose on this issue, if they do give in, if they cave, a lot of voters are going to remember that a year from now.
The next time that moderates stand up will be the first time, right?
Well,
I mean,
exactly.
that's the
That's
thing
right.
here,
That's
as everyone has noted.
That's
And I
right.
don't want to disparage moderates here because, I don't want them coming after me with little representation. But bottom line is, I hear that they tend to buckle in these negotiations when push comes to shove. The wild card here, though, as Brian was alluding to, is people like Mike Lawler, who is my congressman in New York 17. He wants more than to be a congressman. He wants to expand his power. He may want to run for governor. And one way you do that, if you want to win in a blue state, if you're a Republican, is you buck the president a little bit, and maybe you garner support among independents.
Oh, that's an interesting point. Let's actually listen while we're on the topic of salt, and I love that you need salt to live, Brian.
You do it. Look it up.
Let's listen to specifically what the president said after this meeting on this issue.
Well, salt is a very interesting thing because the governors of New York and Illinois, the big JB who's going nowhere, probably right now he could be the worst governor in the country, but Illinois and Gavin Newsom, those are the people that want this. And they're Democrat states. They're all Democrat states.
That was actually before going into the meeting. So he's focused on the blue states and the governors. But the thing that just is particularly for the politics of this and the raw math, it's the Republican districts or Republican held districts within those blue states, particularly in New York.
That's what's giving them the majority.
They gave them the majority. The Mike Lawlers, the Nick Lalotta, who Manu was talking about, those members are the reason why Mike Johnson holds the gavel and that this is even possible in the first place.
I mean, this is the tension in the Republican conference, which is the vast majority of the party is not aligned with this small block of moderates, but it is that small block in California, in New York, in New Jersey that have given Republicans this narrow majority. And so the risk for Trump, who is actually keenly aware of that, issue that they care about, right? He created the law that they're trying to roll back.
And he moved to Florida.
And so he's not subject to it, right? He's been on every side of
Yeah.
the SALT issue, right? He signed the initial law. He said he would repeal it, and now he's attacking it as a giveaway to blue states. So he's been all over this.
I just want to get back to what you sort of alluded to earlier, which is beyond the specifics. This is about a moment in time and about where the party is right now. Because one of the hallmarks of Trump 2.0 so far has been everybody caving to Trump on pretty much everything within his party. And so the question is whether this is going to be different. So it's a legacy issue because this is his legislative agenda. And of course, the potential policy problem of if it doesn't happen, taxes will go up. But it's also a power issue.
So, I mean, what's in the background of this is he's basically implicitly promising to go after these members in the primary before they can even get to the general election. And also just on the SALT issue, additionally, they may be putting seats in play that weren't even competitive before 2 weeks ago. And so this is, I think, one thing to think about this long term is if he loses the House over this, whether or not they comply, that means subpoena power for Democrats. So there's a long-term outlook on this that it seems to me that the Republicans are day trading on this, just trying to get through each day rather than thinking long term.
Look, you're talking about power. Two other P's here. I mean, this was not a policy pitch that the president made behind closed doors. This was personal. And there were Republicans. I was interested that Manu talked to Warren Davidson on the way up, because I talked to Warren Davidson this morning, who told me he was a no this morning on where things stand because he cares about the policy. And I said, well, what if Donald Trump leans on you and says, hey, buddy, Warren, I need you with me? And he said, look, if they don't change the policy in here, then I'm still a no. And he's, of course, a conservative who wants there to be more cuts to Medicaid, or more trims or reductions in spending, he would say. But look, I'm not sure how he wins them if they stick to their guns on the policy.
So we've been talking a lot about the SALT issue, but there are so many other variables, including the people on the policy. Warren Davidson is one of them, who doesn't want to add more to the debt and the deficit. And, we have these numbers just as a reminder. The last time Donald Trump was president, the debt and deficit got a lot worse. Now, to be fair, at the end of his first term, it was COVID. So if you can see the numbers there, it wasn't great. And in large part, it's because on this issue, his party didn't push back enough when he was focused on issues other than cutting the debt and deficit.
I mean, Donald Trump has not been fiscally conservative, right? He butted heads in that first term with Paul Ryan, whose entire agenda was cutting back entitlements. Trump has taken that off the table as best as he can. He doesn't want to touch the most popular parts of government. If he's going to cut things, he wants it to be unpopular things.
I would argue, though, that Trump has the best slogans. Nobody else has the slogans like he does about tax cuts. Most of the numbers he states are overstated or made up. He even said gas prices are $1.99 again today. That's still a lie. But the numbers are powerful to people who are not otherwise paying attention. His slogans are winning in many of these arguments.
Yeah, that's an important point.
President Donald Trump on the Hill this morning, drawing a line in the sand as he pushes Republicans to get on board with his sweeping tax and spending cut plan. One of the big sticking points within the Republican conference, Medicaid funding and work requirements. And sources tell CNN the president warned lawmakers in that closed-door meeting not to touch the program except for eliminating waste, fraud, and abuse. Now, after the meeting, Trump touted the party's unity despite several Republican holdouts of his, quote, big, beautiful bill.
I think we have unbelievable unity. I think we're going to get everything we want, and I think we're going to have a great victory. I think it was a really great. That was a meeting of love. Let me tell you, that was love in that room. There was no shouting. I think it was a meeting of love.
CNN's chief congressional correspondent Manu Raju is live for us on Capitol Hill. Manu, what are you hearing from behind closed doors? Was it a meeting of love?
Well, in the meeting, there was not a ton of pushback to the president's message, but in the hallways is a much different story. And in the meetings with Mike Johnson, who's trying to hold together this very fragile coalition to get it out of the House in the next couple of days, that is a much different situation as well, because he is facing opposition, not just from conservative members who are concerned that this bill does not cut spending by enough, want to go deeper into the issue of Medicaid. Even as the president said to his colleagues, told Republicans in this meeting, don't F with Medicaid. That was his message inside the room, according to sources. But also some of those more moderate members who are worried about deeper cuts, who are also worried about the push to phase out green energy tax breaks that they say are critical to their constituents. And also this major sticking point, how much that taxpayers can deduct from the state and local taxes that they pay. That is being pushed in particular by New York Republicans who say their constituents are getting hammered by those taxes. But Republican hardliners say no way, because that will increase the deficit. And one of those Republican deficit hawks, Warren Davidson, in the immediate aftermath of that Trump meeting, told me he's still a no. But if this bill came to the floor right now, could you vote yes?
I couldn't vote for this bill right now. I mean, it grows deficit spending right now. So it does raise the debt limit. We need to do that. But it doesn't cut spending.
So it sounds like Trump didn't change your mind.
We'll see if he changes the bill.
You sound pretty frustrated right now.
I'm fired up, Manu. I'm here to fight for Long Islanders, regular middle-class people who are just trying to make a living. Those are the people who need to be included in this bill.
He said we're done negotiating with you guys. Did he not?
What I took that is, hey, everybody figure it out. Everybody get in a room and figure it out for the country and for your district.
And that last comment came from Congressman Nick Lolota, who's part of those New York Republican members who are pushing for the greater relief on the issue of so-called SALT, state and local tax deductions. He told me that he is still a no because despite all the last-minute haggling between the speaker and those holdouts, he said the latest offer on the table is, quote, insufficient. So therein lies the problem with Johnson. He's got a number of Republicans who still at the moment plan to vote no, but the speaker plans to try to move ahead with a procedural vote through a key committee as early as 1 a.m. tonight to get it moving to the floor. The question is, does he have the votes? At the moment, it appears not, but we'll see what changes between now and then.
Yeah, he wants to meet that self-imposed deadline of Memorial Day. We'll see if he gets it done before then. Manu Raju live on Capitol Hill. Thanks so much. Brianna?
Well, at that Republican meeting on the Hill today, it was a very warm welcome for President Trump, but he quickly had a blunt message for Republicans there in the House. Stop negotiating and get this bill done. One of the people in that room who posted this video is with us now, Florida Republican Congressman Jimmy Patronis. Congressman, thank you so much for being with us. And it is, and we should note, you've been listening there, you heard from Congressman Lolota, but also you have Republicans in your conference sort of on both sides of the political spectrum of your conference who are holdouts at this point. So let's start with the House Freedom Caucus members like Congressman Andy Harris, who still want more time to vote on the bill. What's your message to them?
Well, at the end of the day, if we fail, which we're not going to, this could be a 60% increase on taxes of everyday citizens in America. We have to get this passed. The one big beautiful bill has to become reality. And I feel good that we're going to make it happen. The president had a lot of engagement with those members. And look, and did he call some of them out? Absolutely. But he also embraced them and tell them, look, guys, we may not get it done this time, but I'm not done being your president. I'm going to be here for 4 more years.
We won't get what done?
The other concerns they may have regarding either any other changes in policies that they're very passionate about.
Okay, so let's talk about one of those, which is something that concerns Congressman Lolota and others, the state and local taxes, this deduction cap. It's a huge issue in higher earning districts like New York, as we certainly understand. Why should someone like Congressman Lolota vote against the interests of their constituents?
I get it, but you know what? Every single day, Congressman Lolota is losing constituents to the state of Florida because we have no state income tax. So again, this is failed leadership in New York's, Albany's capital. You've got governors in Illinois and New York and California that just do not know how to get their financial house in order. So this problem is not his problem. This is the governor of New York's problem and their inability to control their own finances.
Well, the SALT deduction, I mean, that doesn't pertain to what you just mentioned. In the case of that cap, Long Islanders, who he's talking about, would have more money if what he wants with the SALT cap were to happen. And maybe then less of them would go to your beautiful state. So what's the resolution on SALT?
Oh, again, I'm going to repeat my same answer. Last year, Florida had a net gain of 400,000 new Floridians. They're leaving high tax states and going to low tax states. This isn't Mr. Lolota's problem. This is the government of New York's problem. And again, hopefully they get their act in order.
It's an issue, but you understand how it works.
He is fighting. Oh yeah, I totally understand how it works, but also understand that people will leave with their feet and go to where they can keep more of their money. This is bigger than him. This is totally bigger than him. This is a problem at the state level.
So on Medicaid spending, you would like to see that Medicaid work requirement go into effect earlier than 2029. You have, according to the latest Kaiser Family Foundation data, almost 140,000 constituents on Medicaid, roughly 1 out of every 6 people in your district. Will any of them lose Medicaid coverage?
So the work requirement is focused on expansion with able-bodied males, okay? So in Florida, we never expanded. So we would like to see the waste, fraud, and abuse that's taking place. And I do believe there is a significant amount of waste in Medicaid. I was a CFO of the state of Florida. We had the best fiscal health in the history of our state, but we're also a state that did not expand. We lived within our means.
So what are the limits of able-bodied people who should have to meet this work requirement. For example, should a young adult male in your district who is in the throes of addiction be expected to meet those requirements while in rehab, for example?
Well, currently right now, a young adult male in the state of Florida is not eligible for Medicaid unless he's disabled or has some other type of disability that's given
Exactly.
that pathway. It's in the other states where the state of Florida would like to see better use of the taxpayers' dollars, where it's not wasted and people are taking advantage of a system that they should not have any eligibility for. The waste, fraud, and abuse is, again,
Well,
what Florida is most
I'm
focused
asking
on.
if he should be eligible and facing a medical issue like that.
Well, in the case, in the state of Florida, I'm not an advocate for expansion of Medicaid. I've never supported it. So that individual does not have access to expanded guaranteed Medicaid health benefits if he's an able-bodied male, because it's not part of Florida's acceptance into that program.
That when you're looking more broadly across the country then, if you see, because obviously it's not just about Florida, so let's talk about that more broadly. Perhaps that's something we can discuss here. If you're looking at work requirements, and so you have someone, and there are many cases, I think everyone sort of knows someone or knows a family affected by something like this, and right now they're relying on that. Should that be considered able-bodied? Should that be considered to fall under that work requirement in that instance?
So my concerns are with Medicaid dollars, they're precious to come by, and it doesn't get any cheaper for healthcare delivery. But when you've got able-bodied males that have the ability to go out and seek employment in order to maybe secure health insurance to the private sector, that frees up dollars for disabled, for elderly, for women. So again, this is where my heart is.
Is that person able-bodied?
I want
Sir,
those
that's my
dollars to
question,
go
though. But Congressman, that's my question. Is that an able-bodied person? Someone who is in rehab dealing with addiction? I mean, would you consider that an able-bodied person?
The able-bodied person I'm talking about is the 25-year-old who's sitting on his couch playing Xbox.
And you think there's just a ton of those?
That's the person that I feel like should. I don't know how many of them exist, but I know there is going to be a population that are getting that benefit when they really could be out in the workforce and securing it through the private sector, which is better for everybody. I like those dollars to be available for those who most need it, not those that actually have a pathway to get access to health care because they're capable of seeking work that provides it for them.
Arkansas tried to implement work requirements for Medicaid in 2018. Over 18,000 people lost coverage before the law was overturned by a federal court. Are you comfortable with those kind of numbers nationwide?
Well, I think we have got a system that obviously needs to be tighter, because what we've got Medicaid
Are those
as is,
acceptable
it's
numbers?
difficult to make. Well, again, I want Medicaid to be sustainable, making it sustainable, making sure that we take
Well, that may
care
make it
of those that
sustainable. Are you
most
okay with that
vulnerable.
kind of number?
Again, I have no idea what the finances are of Arkansas if they had some other way to absorb it. But I know this, when it comes to Medicaid, it's the single largest part of the Florida budget. We have got to manage it because it's not getting any smaller. But if you are able to go out and secure private health insurance because you're able to seek employment, you know what? That's not a bad way to help us make sure those dollars are going to those people who truly need it.
So if you're looking at numbers like that to get to that point, I mean, this is sort of a state case study in terms of populations and in terms of people having, whatever work requirement and health issue or not. You can expect that in other places there would be a lot of people losing coverage. Is that acceptable?
No, look, it's plausible. I'm not a citizen of Arkansas, don't intend to ever move in there, and don't know what they have had to deal with that. We're not familiar with the court case you're speaking to, but I do know Florida. I knew Florida Medicaid, and I know that we did not expand so we can make sure we had a manageable system on our hands. And what I'm concerned with is in these other states where they have expanded, they have created a monster that is going to be difficult to manage. Look, I don't want to cut anybody's benefits, but I definitely want to make sure that the elderly, our seniors, our women, our children, that they always have a robust safety net that always takes care of them. That is the purpose of Medicaid.
All right, Congressman Jimmy Patronis, we appreciate your time. Thanks for being with us.
Thank you for having me.
President Trump goes to Capitol Hill to win support for his sweeping spending bill with tax cuts. But House Republican hardliners are threatening to stall his agenda, and moderates are making their own demands. Keep in mind, just a tiny handful of GOP no votes could potentially doom the entire bill. Joining us now, Republican Congressman Carlos Jimenez of Florida. Congressman, thanks so much for joining us. How did the president's message play in the room? You were there. You listened to what he had to say. You got the reaction from your Republican colleagues. What stood out to you from his remarks?
Oh, I thought he was on his A game. Very engaging, very funny, and got his point across. We need to unite. The big, beautiful bill is something that has to pass. Failure is not an option, and we've got to get together and get it done. And the message resonated very well, and I think that, look, I've always said that at the end, failure is not an option. We're going to get this thing done.
Yeah, he kept saying when he emerged from that meeting, he said it was a meeting of love. He kept saying that, a meeting of love. Several GOP hardliners, on the other hand, including House Freedom Caucus Chair Andy Harris and Congressman Clay Higgins and Thomas Massie, say they were unmoved by the president's comments. Is this bill in jeopardy of not passing? Because you only need, 3 or 4 Republicans to vote no, and it doesn't get over the finish line.
We're going to get this done. Like I said, failure is not an option. If we fail, then the American taxpayer, America, will be facing the largest tax increase in its history. And that's not going to happen under our watch and under our governance. And so we're going to get to the finish line. We may have some issues around the edges, but they're just around the edges that we may have slight disagreements on right now. But at the end of the day, we're going to get this done. And the president, reiterated again how important it is for the American people that we do get this thing done and we get this bill passed, send it on to the Senate so that he can, and then they can pass it on to the president.
So what do you think, Congressman, what do you think needs to change in order to assure that it will pass?
I think what needs to change is some people need to understand that they're not going to get everything they want. There are things in this bill that I may not like, and there's going to be things in the bills that obviously everybody is not going to like, but the vast majority of this bill is good. It's good for the American people. It makes sure that we don't have a tax increase for the American people, unleashes American energy independence and dominance. It's good for the families. It's good for business, and it's a huge step forward for the American economy. That's the good. It far outweighs any of the negative small items that we may have personally. So, you can't let perfect be the enemy of good, and this bill is very, very good.
Some of your moderate Republicans in states like New York and California, they want to raise the cap on the amount of state and local taxes that people could deduct from their federal returns. Others say more needs to be done to reduce the cost of the bill. How do President Trump and the Speaker, Mike Johnson, find a middle ground here?
Well, we will find a middle ground that will satisfy those in the blue states that are asking for an additional state and local tax deduction, and those that want more spending cuts. Again, these are issues around the edges. They're not the main part of this bill, and so I am confident that we will find that sweet spot. Speaker Johnson has a great ability of getting people together. He's well respected by everybody in our conference,
exactly.
And I have complete confidence that he'll get the job done. And I know that the president has confidence in him too. So, like I said, failure is not an option here.
There we have it. Do you guys think that?
Right now, a live look on Capitol Hill, the halls of the Capitol.
Do you guys think that the big beautiful bill will be passed? I think so. I definitely think so. Now it might take a while, but it's most likely going to pass. Most likely going to pass. Okay, of course, the 45th and now the 47th President of the United States, as usual, having multiple events per day. He was at the Capitol earlier. Now in the Oval Office with the Department of Defense Secretary. Check this out. Always working for Americans.
Thank you very much, and thank you for being here in the Oval Office, one of the great places of the world, as we make a historic announcement about the Golden Dome Missile Defense Shield. That's something we want, and Ronald Reagan wanted it many years ago, but they didn't have the technology, but it's something we're going to have. We're going to have it at the highest level. I want to thank Secretary Hegseth, who's been fantastic, and Secretary Rubio, and Space Force Vice Chief of Space Operations, General Mike Gutlein. I also want to recognize Senators Dan Sullivan, Kevin Cramer, and Jim Banks, fantastic senators, great talents, great political talents, and people that love our country. In the campaign, I promised the American people that I would build a cutting-edge missile defense shield to protect our homeland from the threat of foreign missile attack.
Did you hear what he said? Did you hear what he just said? He said, during my campaign, I promised the American people we were going to build the Golden Dome around the United States. Key word, promise. I promised the American people. How many presidents can say what he just said? Oh, I promised you guys, but now I want to fulfill my promise to you. This is what I voted for. This is what we voted for. Well, for the Republicans and conservative, this is what we voted for. Promises made, promises kept. Listen to the OG.
And that's what we're doing today.
Okay, before I go on, the legendary GOAT, Luke, said, dams can be real negative, but a declawed, toothless cat is a fluffy pillow no matter how angry it is. Legendary GOAT, ladies and gentlemen. Shout out to Luke. Thank you for the super chat.
I'm pleased to announce that we have officially selected an architecture for this state-of-the-art system that will deploy next-generation technologies across the land, sea, and space, including space-based sensors and interceptors. And Canada has called us, and they want to be a part of it. So we'll be talking to them. They want to have protection also. So as usual, we help Canada do the best we can. This design for the Golden Dome will integrate with our existing defense capabilities and should be fully operational before the end of my term. So we'll have it done in about 3 years. Once fully constructed, the Golden Dome will be capable of intercepting missiles even if they are launched from other sides of the world and even if they are launched from space. And we will have the best system ever built. As you know, we helped Israel with theirs, and it was very successful, and now we have technology that's even far advanced from that, but including hypersonic missiles, ballistic missiles, and advanced cruise missiles. All of them will be knocked out of the air. We will truly be completing the job that President Reagan started 40 years ago, forever ending the missile threat to the American homeland, and the success rate is very close to 100%, which is incredible when you think of it. You're shooting bullets out of the air. I'm also pleased to report that the one big beautiful bill will include $25 billion for the Golden Dome to help construction get underway. That's the initial sort of a down deposit. And we have probably, you're talking about, General, we're talking about $175 billion total cost of this when it's completed. This afternoon, I'm also announcing that I will appoint, very importantly, General Gutlein to lead the ambitious new effort as the direct reporting program manager for the Golden Dome. Very talented man, and I'm very honored to have been the one that helped or really created Space Force. Space Force has turned out to be a tremendous success. We were third in space, and now we're number one in space by a lot. It's not even close. And Mike is a 4-star Space Force general, the recipient of the Defense Distinguished Service Medal, one of the most respected people in the world having to do with defense. You know, we have offense and we have defense. I'll bet he's good at offense. and he has an unmatched background in missile warning technology and defense procurement. General Goodline also knows that we need to move fast. No one is more qualified for his job, and everybody, this was a universal acceptance of General Goodline. Everybody that knows him and knows everybody else, they said there's only one man for the job, so I have a feeling we have the right guy. But now I'd like to invite Secretary Hegseth and the General to please say a few words and describe the system a little bit. And we appreciate you being here. The press has really been very fair over the last period of a couple of months. I don't know what happened to you. It was so much more exciting the other way, but you've been very, very fair. We have very high poll numbers, the highest we've ever had. And I think we're doing a great job. We had a tremendous trip to the Middle East, as you know. It was a really amazing trip. And now I came home, and this is the one I was really looking forward to this day, because this is very important for the success and even survival of our country. It's a pretty evil world out there, so this is something that goes a long way toward the survival of this great country. And as I said, we'll be discussing Canada. They want to hook in, and they want to see if they can be a part of it. That sort of makes sense. I guess that's what I was talking about from day one. You know, it just automatically makes sense, and it won't be very difficult to do, but they'll pay their fair share. Thank you very much, everybody. And Pete, go ahead.
Well, Mr. President, add this to the long and growing list of promises made and promises kept. Ultimately, this right here, the Golden Dome for America, is a game changer. It's a generational investment in the security of America and Americans. Mr. President, you said we're to secure our southern border and get 100% operational control after the previous administration allowed an invasion of people into our country. President Reagan 40 years ago cast the vision for it. The technology wasn't there. Now it is, and you're following through to say we will protect the homeland from cruise missiles, ballistic missiles, hypersonic missiles, drones, whether they're conventional or nuclear. It's not lost on me, sir, also that you had the vision to start the Space Force, and here we are when the others said we didn't need it. Here we are in the Oval Office with one of the leaders of the Space Force in General Goodline leading the charge on putting in place a game-changing Golden Dome for America. So, sir, it's an honor to be a part of this bold initiative. We're going to get to work on it. We have been since you signed that executive order on January 27th. We've been fast forward on this. We're here on this day, and this is just one stop in delivering this defense of the homeland, which is something you've charged us with doing, and we'll keep going until it is complete, sir.
Thank you, Pete. Pete's doing a great job, by the way. Thank you very much. General, please.
Mr. President, today is a great day for the nation as we double down on protection of the homeland. As you're aware, our adversaries have become very capable and very intent on holding the homeland at risk. While we have been focused on keeping the peace overseas, our adversaries have been quickly modernizing their nuclear forces, building out ballistic missiles capable of hosting multiple warheads, building out hypersonic missiles capable of attacking the United States within an hour and traveling at 6,000 miles an hour, building cruise missiles that can navigate around our radar and our defenses, and building submarines that can sneak up on our shores, and worse yet, building space weapons. It is time that we change that equation and start doubling down on the protection of the homeland. Golden Dome is a bold and aggressive approach to hurry up and protect the homeland from our adversaries. We owe it to our children and our children's children to protect them and afford them a quality of life that we have all grown up enjoying. Golden Dome will afford that. I greatly appreciate your trust in me and your nomination in me and your trust in the team to deliver this. It is a great day for America.
And also, very importantly, we're the only ones that have this, we call it super technology. Nobody else has it. And nobody else has really near what we have. So this is a very exciting project. This is something that will, the general said close to 100% protection. So that's something we need. I think it's and everything's going to be made in the USA, by the way, very importantly. So it's something that I've been looking forward to for a long time. And I just noticed you too, Jim, you're standing there, and behind you is a very important document, Declaration of Independence. And that was in the vault for many decades right under this area. They have vaults with pictures on top. You have Abraham Lincoln. You see that was the original Abraham Lincoln, the original Washington. And does everybody know who the middle was? General Grant. And so it's very exciting. You look over here, and above Ronald Reagan, you have Thomas Jefferson. That's Monroe from the Monroe document. And you know who that is, right? Andrew Jackson. So we have a lot of very exciting pictures, and on the other side, likewise, some great presidents and great people. And many of these, because people were asking about them, many of them, almost all of them, were in the vaults or nearby, but generally in the vaults downstairs. Well, we have some great. So it's very exciting, and the place has become a little different than you first saw it, Jim, right?
Yes, much
It's
better.
a little bit different, it's slightly better. But to think we had them, and some were in the vaults for over 100 years. So it's pretty cool stuff. Everybody knows Jim Banks. He's a great congressman, and now he's a great senator from Indiana. And you might want to say a few words.
Well, your legacy with Space Force, Mr. President, is already big, but the Golden Dome is going to be an even bigger legacy for our country. And Indiana is going to help you make it.
Right.
The space satellites that are made at Fort Wayne, Indiana by L3 Harris, all the work done at Crane Navy Base in southern Indiana is going to be a big part of it. And Hoosiers are very proud of that. We're proud of you. Thank you very much.
It'll be a big factor. Thank you, and good luck, and congratulations. You won that race by a lot. That wasn't even a contest, right?
Well, thanks to you and all of your support.
Thank you very much. Thanks. Please go ahead. You missed that. This is Senator Kramer, and he's one of our best. Can't get any better. Go ahead.
Well, you're very nice, Mr. President, and thanks for this. And I remember the day in your first.
Every single American, you're supposed to be proud of this moment. You're supposed to be proud of this moment. The Golden Dome for America. Isn't this what you would want as an American? Protection. One thing I do not understand with the liberals is they want Trump to fail so bad. Don't you realize that if Trump fails, what happens to America? He's leading America. You're supposed to be wishing for his success and for American success. Why do you want him to fail? Oh, I'll come back here in next 1 year and I'll see what you're talking about. So you don't want America to be better in 1 year? A year from now, you don't want America to be better? He's going to destroy the United States. You're supposed to be praying for your leaders. This guy has been working around the clock. I just told you today he's at 3 events. He had 2 at the Capitol building. Now is in the Oval Office. What else do you want? What else do you want? I support America. I love America. And I suggest you do the same. America first, baby.
When you called it, I was a brand new baby freshman senator on the Armed Services Committee, and you said, I want to have a Space Force. Would you lead the effort on the Senate Armed Services Committee? And I felt so proud thinking that you chose me, only to find out later no one else would do it. But nonetheless, it worked out really, really, really well because North Dakota has some great space assets that contribute to that and to Golden Dome. No surprise that you would be the president that would come along and put the homeland first. And this is just one more example of that. So thanks for this.
Thank you for tuning into the live show. Shout out to the GOAT one more time. The legendary GOAT, Luke. He said, does everyone realize that every president after Trump will be measured by his success? Yes, every single president after Trump, which is most likely going to be another Republican in 2028, in my opinion, because I think Marco Rubio is doing an awesome job. J.D. Vance, incredible as well. Everybody coming after Trump, you're going to have to step up your game because now Americans know what an effective president looks like. I mean, they knew from 2016 to 2020, but for some reason, 2020 happened. And then all of a sudden, everybody forgot about the First Step Act. Everybody forgot about Abraham's Accord. Everybody forgot about a lot of stuff that he did. Okay. Opportunity zones because of 2020. Okay. That really messed up people's mind mentally, emotionally. People, a lot happened in 2020. So people forgot about what he did. But now, moving forward, the next president is going to face a lot because you're going to have to step up your game and your activity level.
For allowing me this afternoon. By the way, let me just add my strong endorsement of General Goodline's role in leading this. I don't know anybody better, for sure, better equipped to do it than he is.
Everybody said that.
Yeah,
that's
for sure.
Dan Sullivan, Alaska, Senator.
Thank you, Mr. President, and thank you for your continued leadership on missile defense. We were talking earlier how in 2019 at the Pentagon, you laid out a speech about the Missile Defense Review that had all these principles on missile defense you articulated then during your first term, and now the Golden Dome is all of that. So you're continuing to lead. We really appreciate it. The Congress is stepping up, as you mentioned right now in the budget reconciliation bill, $25 billion for the Golden Dome. And what Senator Kramer and Senator Banks and I and many others, we're working on and I briefed you on this before, sir, on our Golden Dome Act, which we think will have, in terms of legislation that can help cement what you're doing right here, getting the Congress behind it, not just with the funding, but with authorization. So we're working closely with Secretary Hegseth, General Gutlein, and the whole team. So we're very honored to be here, sir. And Alaska is the cornerstone of missile defense right now in terms of ground-based missile interceptors, in terms of radar systems and track incoming missiles. So my state is honored to continue to play a critical role in all of this and build on it. And we're really excited to be here. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dan. Great. Any questions?
Mr. President, you had mentioned at the beginning of your remarks that this was a campaign promise of yours. Have military commanders asked for this?
Way he says, man, this man is an inspiration. It's just an inspiration. The way he says, yes. Any questions? Who says that? No president would say any questions because you want to run away from questions. Okay, you don't want people to ask you things that you cannot answer. Not Trump. He's always chasing, running after, pursuing questions. He wants questions. Why? Because he wants the American public to see and hear what he has to say, so the media doesn't twist it or lie about it. The OG, the 45th, 47th President of the United States. I am glad to be alive and to be in the United States during this great time.
System specifically, because NORAD had said previously that the current system was adequate. So what does this get the United States
Somebody
that
said the
isn't
current
already
system is
in
adequate.
before?
There really is no current system. We have certain areas of missiles and certain missile defense, but there's no system. We just have some very capable weapons that hopefully we never have to use, but we have some very capable weapons. Now, this is a different league. There's never been anything like this. This is something that's going to be very protective. I think you can rest assured there'll be nothing like this. Nobody else is capable of building it either.
Was it something that military commanders asked you for? Did they ask you to do this?
Well, let me put it differently. I suggested it, and they all said, we love the idea, sir. That's the way it's got to be, right? But they want it, and they wanted it badly once it was suggested. I don't know if they ever thought they would be lucky enough to have it, but we were able to get it done, and we have all the funding, so pretty much tucked away. I think most people feel it's very important to have. Yeah, please.
Thank you, Mr. President. When you first announced this idea, critics said it would be prohibitively expensive, potentially ineffective, and could trigger an arms race in space. What do you say to those critics about that?
Well, they're wrong. It's about as close to perfect as you can have in terms of real production. I told you Canada wants to be a part of it, which be, fairly small expansion, but we'll work with them on pricing. We'll be dealing with them on pricing. They know about it very much. They've asked to be a part of it, actually. They've asked us to be a part of it. I think it's something that is great. If you can afford to do it, we can afford to do it. You know, we took in $5.1 trillion in the last 4 days in the Middle East. And when you think about it, this is a tiny fraction of that. But we make it all here. We're going to make it all here. We have, I will tell you, an adversary told me, a very big adversary told me the most brilliant people in the world are Silicon Valley. He said, we cannot duplicate them. We can't. This was somebody that I won't tell you who it is, but you'd be amazed. We have the most brilliant minds in the world doing this kind of thing, the equipment, the space, the computers, everything. But I said that we just can't duplicate what you have there in Silicon Valley. We never have been able to. And there's a very strong group of people and very strong minds, but they can't. So we have things that nobody else can have. You see what we've done helping Israel with that. You probably wouldn't have in Israel. They launched probably 500 missiles altogether, and I think 1/2 of a missile got through, and that was only falling to the ground as scrap metal. It's pretty amazing, and this is in terms of technology far advanced from that system.
And just one follow-up on the adversaries. Have you addressed Russia's ventures in space with a space-based nuclear weapon and told Putin to stop in your conversations with him?
We haven't discussed it, but at the right time we will. Yeah.
Mr. President, with the goal of keeping Americans safe with this, can you talk about the timeline? How long will this take to complete?
We think it's going to be about a little bit less than 3 years, and we'll have a big phase-in very early. You know, we're starting immediately with $25 billion. It'll cost about $175 billion completed, but we think in 2.5 to 3 years.
Are you confident that you can get the funding needed from Congress quickly?
Yeah. It's amazing how easy this one is to fund. You know, some funding is tough and some is easy. When we say we're going to save everyone's lives in a crazy world, it seems to be very easy to get. Yeah, we've already spoken to everybody we have to speak to. Everybody's in, I would say, Dan, everybody's in line here, right?
Yes, sir. $25 billion is a down payment in the budget reconciliation bill right now.
Yeah, so I think
Mr. President, on Russia,
people actually love it.
Mr. President, on Russia, are you worried about the reports on a military buildup along the borders towards Finland and Norway?
No, I don't worry about that at all. They're going to be very safe. Those are two countries that are going to be very safe.
And the secondly, sir, if I may, Volodymyr Zelensky is saying today that he's hoping for you to impose new sanctions on Russia. Are you considering that?
Well, that's going to be my determination. That's going to be nobody else's determination. We'll see how Russia behaves. We see what's going to happen. You know, we have a pretty critical time right now. I had a talk yesterday for 2.5 hours with President Putin, as you know. I also spoke to all of the European, or to many of them, leaders, but they were representing the whole. And I think we had very good conversations yesterday. Please.
Thanks, Mr. President. What companies have asked to be involved in building this system, and have you decided on who will be building it?
Yeah, I think I'll let you answer that. You can mention some of yours from Alaska's involved, and Alaska is a big part of it because locationally they're sort of perfect. I think that's your first line of defense in certain instances. And Kevin will tell you that his state's involved, but honestly, Georgia's going to be very big. Florida's going to be very big. They're all going to be very big. Jim, do you want to talk about Indiana?
Yeah, in Fort Wayne, Indiana, where I live, we make all the space satellites at L3 Harris. Across the board, we're the top manufacturing state in the country. By the way, the tariffs have been very good for auto manufacturing.
They've been so good.
But this is going to be really good for the defense industry in my state. And there's so much money involved here. There are going to be a lot of American companies involved in making the Golden Dome.
You might also say, you're talking about the tariffs, here's some of the biggest auto plants in the world moving into Indiana, only for one reason, maybe two reasons, November 5th and the tariffs, okay?
Yes, sir.
But the tariffs have driven tremendous business into this country, but you have one of the biggest in the world being built.
The Honda Civics,
right.
The new Honda Civic made in Indiana, GM's added jobs, Eli Lilly moving pharmaceutical manufacturing from China to the United States, $27 billion. You go on.
Thank you for tuning in to the live show. Once again, the legendary GOAT strikes again. Shout out to Luke for the super chat. He says, taking the same actions over and over, expecting different result is what liberals media is doing. Exactly. They did it in 2016, 2020, And they did it all through Joe Biden's presidency, pursuing the former President Trump 45th. And of course, we saw what happened, the mugshot right in his home, courthouses, while the campaign was going on. The fact that he's so cool, calm, and collected, I don't know how he does it, because really everybody would want to take their own revenge, but he's not. He's focused on prosperity. But with that being said, I'll keep going. The GOAT says, wait, do Democrat want Trump to win as much as MAGA? Which is, some people say, what is MAGA? MAGA is Make America Great Again. Okay? Shout out to the GOAT.
On and on with good news in Indiana and across the country because of the tariffs.
Our country was cold as ice a year ago, and now we have the hottest country in the world. This is the hottest country in the world. Nobody even close. If you look at even this last trip that I made, the respect that is paid to our country. We've went from being laughed at all over the world, and now we're the hottest country in the world by far. Dan, go ahead, please.
Yes, sir, Mr. President. I think when you look at the system that you've laid out, it's an idea in your executive order of a layered defense. So you have initial ground-based missile interceptors, which are made by some of the big defense companies, Lockheed, Martin, Raytheon. But the beauty of your vision, Mr. President, is that it's layered, it's open architecture, and it goes up into space. So this is going to be some of the new defense tech companies that are very interested in it and can bring missile defense at a cost that I don't think, you said it, Mr. President, is unimaginable in terms of how much lower the cost is. So it's all across the board in terms of companies. Senator Kramer and I just met with a bunch of them last week that are interested in this. And you said it earlier, Mr. President, our technology sector is head and shoulders above any other place in the world. And they're going to be a key part of this, and I think that's why it makes it so exciting.
Mr. President, I think one of the things that's, and you alluded to this, the new autonomous space age defense ecosystem is more about Silicon Valley than it is about big metal, right? And so what's exciting about this is it makes it available to everybody to participate, to compete. Big companies, mid-sized companies, small companies, but General Goodline is the perfect person, again, to sort all that out because he understands how it has to work together ultimately.
And Pete, maybe we'll close with you. We have been discussing this for a long time. Peter and I used to discuss it when I was going to go on a show that he did very well and had tremendous ratings, but all he wanted to talk about was the military. He didn't want to talk about anything else. We used to talk about this. How about you closing it out?
Yes, sir. I mean, like I said, without your vision, willing to say and do things when other people wanted to look away and pretend like the threat didn't exist, or be focused on foreign adventurism, some other threat that we've been told is affecting us. When you looked at the data, sir, from Russia to the Communist Chinese and other, their capabilities, what they're trying to do to supersede us and threaten us, how do we find the best innovators, the best military leaders, the best companies, tech companies? You mentioned open architecture. That's exactly right. So multiple companies can pour into this, sir. It's a layered defense. So if you miss at one, you catch at the next. And it integrates existing technologies that can speak to each other. So it moves quickly while also investing in further ranging space-based interceptors. So our enemies, our adversaries, are going to pay a lot of attention to this, just like they have to President Trump from day one. Sir, you're defending the homeland, defending the American people. It's going to benefit my kids, grandkids, all of ours in this room. So thank you for your leadership. We're going to charge it as fast as we can.
Very good. Great job, everybody. Thank you. Thank you very much.
They're screaming him down. Do anybody remember when the Prime Minister of Italy, when she came to the Oval Office, and President Trump says, "Any question?" And everybody was like, and she was like, whoa. And she's not used to it. This is a legend right here. He's used to this. He was born in Queens, New York. He was a developer in New York. He changed the economy of New York. In case people don't know, this man changed New York. There was a time New York was going through a lot of crisis. Most people don't know. This guy was part of the people, if not one of the key players in changing the economy of New York. There was a time where Trump Tower was the tallest building in New York, and he attracted a lot of people into New York for tourism. He's been changing cities, and he wasn't even a politician. What else do you want? Oh, he's racist. Oh, for real? Oh, he's Hitler. Oh, for real? What else do you have, liberals? You have nothing. You only have lies. He's gone through bankruptcies. It's part of life. Elon Musk, the richest man on earth right now, most people would say he's the most innovative man on earth right now. Most people would say that. He's failed so many times. Do you know how many rockets he's blown up because they didn't do their calculations well or because there was some sort of mistakes? Yes, mistakes or failures or falling down, it is part of life. You fall down 7 times, you get up 8. What do you expect? When you fail, you just lay down and call yourself a failure? No, this is America. You get back up and you try again and again and again and again. You don't give up because you failed or because you fell down. My daughter is 5 years old now. I remember when she was trying to learn how to walk. She would fall down. She would fall and fall and fall. And she would get up again, smiling and jumping and ready to get up again. She's like, but for some reason, when we get older and we fail, it's bad. No, failure is part of life. If you don't fail, how do you learn? Just imagine when your kid started learning how to walk and they fell 1 time, 2 times, 3 times. I say, I don't want to walk, mommy. I don't want to walk, daddy. No, they don't say that. They keep trying. And now they're walking, they're running, they're jumping, causing havoc in the house. That's what life is about. With that being said, thank you for tuning into the live show. Instead of looking for perfection, seek for consistency. Never give up on yourself. Never give up on your dreams. Never give up on God. Believe in yourself. Believe in your dreams. Believe in Almighty God. Okay? God is the greatest. Shout out to our members. Luke, the GOAT, the legendary GOAT. Shout out to Luke one more time. Thank you for the super chat. Ellie, Ringmaster. Shout out to the moderators we have here. C. Shelley, Mr. Busky, Zyra's Garden. Shout out to C. Shelley. God bless you, C. Shelley. Shout out to the Bucket Master. He has buckets for liberals and your tears. Okay? So next time, make sure you grab a bucket from Mr. Busky. As a matter of fact, you can grab your bucket before you leave right now. Everybody, every liberal, get your bucket before you leave. Busky has it in surplus. Okay? God bless you. Shout out to the military members. Shout out to the veterans. Thank you for your service. You protect the homeland. You guys are the best. Shout out to the policemen and policewomen. You protect us every single day. Thank you so much for that. And shout out to every single person who tuned in. God bless you. God bless you. Thank you. And fathers, take care of your kids. Take care of your kids. All right. And with that being said, it is your boy Genesis. God bless you. God bless America. And I am signing out. We will be back. Don't forget that. Subscribe to the channel. Double tap your screen. And we will be back. Genesis signing out.